Hello and welcome back to Outside the Box, an MLS podcast. My name is Juanners,
This is Daniel.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Joss.
and we're back after missing last week. Though, last week was kind of a rough one when it came to, I guess, league chaos and a lot of 1-0s, a lot of 0-0s. This match day was a bit better. We'll get right into it because highlight match of the week, since there was no Sunday night soccer, the league still had to get in their big hype for this one, and I thought it lived up to the hype, despite it just being a 1-0. But we had Columbus Crew versus Inter Miami. Had the entire OTB crew on this one just to discuss kind of the two teams towards the top of the Eastern Conference. Miami, of course, still unbeaten. Columbus Crew, first L in the Cleveland Browns Stadium, no less. I'll kind of open it up to OTB. Maybe I'll start with Jeremy. What did you make of this one, man? And from there, we'll just kind of ask everyone about the teams. But what did you make of this game in general?
I don't really want to talk about the football for this game right now because I think that MLS's promotion of this game was shameless, incredibly shameless.
Okay.
Tons of tweets, tons of comments on the broadcast about how this is a record attendance. And of course it's going to be a record attendance because you're playing it 2 hours away in a different city in a football stadium. And I can't get over that. I think that it's ridiculous that the league was trying to say that this was a good thing when they essentially robbed Columbus of a home game for one of their biggest regular season matches of the year. And I just can't get over it. I really can't. And when Columbus plays this game, they completely dominate Miami, at least in terms of chance creation. They're unable to put some of those, they're able to put any of those into the back of the net. Phil Neville, I'm going to talk about this for a sec because he loves to talk about how strongly home fans can affect a match. And he loves to use the phrase that the home fans will suck the ball into the net based on how energized they are. And I feel like, if this was in Columbus, some of those chances go right in. Those balls do get sucked into the back of the net instead of it being in Cleveland. So I'm disappointed in the way this game was marketed. I'm disappointed in the tone that the league took when they were discussing it. And I think if this was actually a home game, Columbus wins it. But it isn't. It's 2 hours away. And I'm not going to be able to get over that.
Yeah, when I was writing the report for this one, the pre-match report, I had to list this as a neutral venue because, I can't for sure tell, the match reporter here that Cleveland's gonna show out for Columbus, right? Even if there is that tie-in with the owner who did own the Browns, and it was just funny, like, to that testament, the pregame they had Jerry Jeudy, former Denver Bronco. That's the only way I recognize him, but he was a player for the Browns. He was like, yeah, this is a great atmosphere, and we can't wait to see Messi and the guys. I was like, and he was wearing Columbus Crew gear. I'm just like, this is like jarring because everyone's there to see Messi, right? And man, Messi was largely, I mean, this is kind of the testament to Columbus, their defense. Sure, they didn't score on the night. They probably should have, but I thought they frustrated the hell out of Messi here. If we see these guys in the playoffs again, do you think there's enough push from Columbus to have this at their ground, like the next go around? What are we feeling? I'll go with Joss.
I think Wilfred Nancy has a lot of say within the club. And I think for him, if they meet in a game where there's stakes like that, not to say there weren't stakes in this game, obviously two undefeated teams going against each other, but stakes like the playoffs, I think Wilfred Nancy pushes to keep it in Columbus. Because Columbus, they will sell out the stadium. They have for the playoffs for years. They'll sell out the stadium, and having that home field advantage will be so important. I can't really comment on moving the game because Sporting Kansas City did the exact same thing last year. Granted, it was not 2 hours away. It was 30 minutes from the stadium. It was actually closer to downtown KCMO than KCK. So maybe it was a benefit. But yeah, I think if they meet again in the playoffs, hopefully Wilfred Nancy puts an end to this utter woke nonsense. In fact, if we could make one of the Sean Deitch memes, utter woke nonsense, but put Wilfred Nancy in place of Sean Deitch, I'd like that a lot. Maybe make it in French.
What are you feeling, Daniel? I know you. We opened with I like to see Messi right before we got into it, but so too do a lot of Cleveland residents, I guess. What'd you make of this one, at least, and of the game overall?
I thought it was a fun atmosphere given the circumstances. I mean, I don't know if they had microphones right outside the Nordecki or not, but you could hear them pretty loud and clearly from the TV. So, I mean, that was good at least. It was interesting. Every time there was like the crowd would like go off in two instances whenever Columbus was in their attacking third and whenever Messi touched the ball. And I always find that it's like a weird paradox that happens when Messi plays in a stadium that obviously isn't, because he has bandwagon fans everywhere. Everyone wants to see him play. I think this was a good chance for Columbus to kind of, I guess, assess their strengths and weaknesses against like a top team in the East coming up in the summer for who they might need to replace or look for more competition at a certain position here. If they plan on making pushes that we've seen in the past 2 years, I think Russell Rowe needs some competition at the striker spot to kind of push himself a little bit more. They might want to look to get another midfielder as well. But yeah, that was my big takeaway was Columbus didn't look bad. They just missed some chances, and I think it's a good chance for them to just assess themselves against the top team in the East for sure.
Yeah, I thought Russell Rowe disappeared. He's being asked to do like a lot of things, playing in the half space, playing as a target, but then in play, like when Columbus do get a good transition moment, he's just kind of absent from that. I think this match day revealed a lot of poor transitional teams that we'll kind of get into as we go down the slate. But for me, they replaced Alexandru Matan with Gazdag. Now they need to replace Cucho with a striker, right? So I agree with you there. On Miami, how are you guys feeling here about the fact that Messi is now just playing every 90 from being a very selective starter to like getting serious minutes over the course of the past few weeks? I don't know how the rotations are going to work for that midweek game against Vancouver. That's like a whole, cross-continental trip, literally, but how are we feeling here about Messi, guys? He's still performing, still putting in the work.
I said it a few episodes back, but I love seeing that. I love seeing that. It shows that we've had players come over that clearly their heads weren't in it, right? They came over for a payday. They came over to live in a Los Angeles or a New York, get a payday, move on, right? Messi is well within his rights to do that, I think. Ballon d'Or, like record Ballon d'Or winner, World Cup winner, won everything that there is to win. He could well have come over, got his friends to come over, and hung out for 2 years in Miami, right? I love that he's going to a football stadium in Cleveland, Ohio, and putting in the hard yards. He doesn't have to do that, I don't think. So I do like it. Now, like you mentioned, Juan, it is obviously going to take a toll on him. He is, how old is he now? Is he 36? 37?
37.
He's 37 now. That's not young in this sport, right? I think that it's smarter for his minutes to be managed. I I think that there would have been an uproar if Columbus moved the game and then he didn't start, right? And he didn't play.
That's always the
That-
best, though. That's always the best. Like,
It's very fun.
for the Schadenfreude in all of us.
Yeah, very true. But I think in terms of, I like to see the goat come over and give a shit. You know, it's
Yeah, no,
nice. It's nice.
Probably better long term, but
Yeah.
yeah, this is his fifth 90-minute match. So he's played 5 straight games, including CCL within that. So Mans is still putting on the mileage. Of course, we got a goal from Benjamin Karmashi on this one. Any other closing thoughts on either of these two teams before we go towards the bottom of the Supporters Shield standings?
I have 2 questions for the panel about Inter Miami. One, at this point, 9 games into the season, is there any weaknesses that you guys think that they should try to bolster for them to be able to win the CCL, keep their roster intact, and then in the summer look to make their push for another MLS Cup run in there, hopefully MLS Cup run? That's question number 1. And then question number 2 is, does it feel like they hold a little bit less possession this year than they did last year? I feel like they're a little bit more chaotic. Does anyone else get that feeling when they watch Inter Miami?
I think their back line is always going to have question marks because Thomas Alvarez is just a nut. I don't know how else to explain it. If he's not getting red cards and shooting this team in the foot, like that's the thing is like Miami's only going to ever hurt themselves more than a team's going to come and hurt Miami. Mostly because, I mean, they have Messi they can always just play to. You know, if you're smothering him, he's going to drop and then find a long ball in behind to one of the, deadly attackers, or he's going to receive in space and, make it real difficult for you to really step up to him. But I think Toronto showed you can frustrate this team pretty easily. Just playing real defensively. They probably were unlucky. I'm going to blame a lot of Columbus's misfortunes on their poor luck. They didn't make their luck here, right? Poor finishing, poor in front of the net. Whereas Toronto, I thought were more unlucky. I mean, they hit the post on some great shots, on some high, potential goals, and they really played Miami. So there's eventually the shoe's about to fall. I think this team may be in line for a bad spell of form, but we haven't seen it yet. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm in that camp. I think that Miami, as of right now, let's take a look at their next schedule, their upcoming schedule, because I'm gonna see if I can try and find like a MLS loss here. I'm not gonna talk about CCL for a second, but I think that first of all, this weekend they play Dallas. I think that's a win. Then they play Red Bulls. That's another win. I think Minnesota is going to be a really interesting game, especially. We'll talk about Minnesota later, but I think that's a pretty interesting game. Then they have a midweek game in San Jose. I imagine there's going to be some rotation there, but also Minnesota. San Jose's defense can't be trusted.
Nope.
And then it's rivalry week, and they host Orlando before the grudge match with Philadelphia the week after that. That's almost the end of May, and then they close May with 2 home games against Montreal and Columbus, all in 1 week before Club World Cup begins for them. I'm thinking off the top of my head, I think that Minnesota game could be a loss, and I'm thinking that Columbus game could be a loss.
Damn.
But yeah, I still think that they're far away the best team in this league. They're going to keep winning games, and I think they're just on pace for another Shield. It's really, really easy for me just to look at their schedule and say, yeah, that I don't really see any losses here. And I think that could even come weathering a storm of injuries too. The roster's still well constructed, and I mean, when you have Messi, you have all the stuff that Messi brings with you. In this case, tons of good veteran players who are willing to take pay cuts to come play with you.
Joss?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Just is Inter Miami the God team or not? I think.
Yeah. I in my notes, I think there was I noted that Kramashi scored the goal, right? He scored the game winner. Suarez played a big part in it, but it was Kramashi that got the winner. The right back, I forget the right back's name, but he assisted it. Basically, it wasn't the stars of the show coming through, but they still came out with a win. And for me, that's just a testament to their depth because, like I think we've said, Columbus are like they could have won this game. Gazdag had a few chances. Russell Rowe, Diego Rossi had a few gilt edge chances. Another day, where a star is not on it, they could have lost this game. But it's just a testament to how quality they are in every position, and then how quality they are beyond the stars, beyond the Messis and the Suarezes and the Albas and the Busquets. They still found a way to get it done. So for that, I still think, yeah.
Yeah, my one thing there is Mascherano. Mascherano usually goes crazy for Messi goals, and when Kramashi scored, he went silent. So I was like, he hates this guy. No, but I mean, I had Inter Miami like not being able to sustain this. I thought they were gonna get a very hard crash and come down, and it hasn't happened. My rankings for them are looking more and more dumb as I doubt the GOAT here. Like I said, I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop because, like I said, they have been getting some luck go their way. Opening match against NYC, they were sloppy. I don't forget things like that. They almost lost, but came away with just like a miracle draw here against Toronto. Like, I don't know. I'm waiting for them to drop, but it doesn't seem like they are gonna drop. One team that did drop, and it's just the gift that keeps on giving. LA Galaxy, last place. We're gonna go through through your team here. Starting from the bottom, LA Galaxy. I had Jeremy on this match here against Austin FC. A little bit more of the LA Galaxy kind of prominent starters are coming in. Sanabria made his return last week. We had Paintsill and Peck finally both in, right? So what's wrong, Jeremy? Why is the Galaxy doing this?
I just think that Paintsill and Peck are having to do a lot more self-creation rather than just running onto Ricky Pooch through balls. And you're starting to see the effects of that. It's just easier to defend against this team when Peck and Paintsill have to do so much more of the ball progression. And also, I don't think they'd be this bad if Mark Delgado was still here. I really don't think so. They're missing that kind of connector. Their midfield got completely gutted over this offseason, aside from basically Cirillo. So I I don't think they're a completely lost cause, but this was something that like you probably could have seen coming at the start of the season with how much of the roster they had to turn over. But yeah, it's still delightful, at least in my eyes, just seeing how bad it actually is, and seeing legitimate shouts that Vandy should be fired, and Ricky Pooch having to pick up his phone and just say no to respond to that. I think it's great that the Galaxy are in this spot, but I think, as I've said on this program multiple times before, I think it's bad for the league that your defending champion has to just completely gut their roster in order to become cap compliant. But also credit to Austin in this game because they fully deserve to win it. So, yeah.
Well, one thing about the cap thing, I will say, it's you go out and get a guy like Royce, you're gonna pay that that tax later on. I remember sort of early on when they made the Royce move, I was very critical of it, saying like, you're gonna dump Marco Delgado for Royce, like as they were doing, and it didn't end up mattering because they went on and they won MLS Cup, mostly with Royce and Pooj and, for large stints of those playoffs. But, it's coming back to bite him now with Royce being the only guy of that midfield three. And he's not the guy that, is going to carry the load midfield either offensively or defensively. He was always a complimentary piece, and now he's kind of, in this weird space on the Galaxy right now. He's got the burden of a world-class player on like a team that just doesn't utilize him. He's giving me Shaqiri vibes, really, anytime he's out there, which is quite sad to see. But anyone else wanted to chime in with their own LA thoughts before we move on? Perfect. Let's move on to Montreal. 2 games at home, still no win. They're kind of down there with LA. Montreal is kind of sad to see because I do like the vision. I do like what Donadell kind of is inspiring in these players. A 0-0 loss here, or 0-0 draw here for Montreal. Feels like a loss because, Orlando went down again, and as a Montreal side, they just don't, they're missing exactly what everybody says they're missing, and that's just quality talent. Like they don't have that guy that they can just play through. Dante Sealy being the most productive player kind of tells you everything you need to know there. But I think the play is fine. It's just they just are missing that piece. And man, one thing that gets me upset here because there's a new young player. His name is Hennedy Sainchuk. He's this Ukrainian right winger for them, and I can't get hyped for the Montreal wingers anymore. I got hyped for Sanusi Ibrahim. He's on the bench. Jacques Marshall Ruddy's on the bench. You got Jules Vilsaint on the bench. Freaking Quado Apoku. When he joined Montreal, that felt like, yes, this is a perfect fit, right? But they've just been rotating so many people at the position. It's hard to. It's like Red Bulls every year where they're like, yeah, this is the U22 guy that's gonna do gangbusters for us, and it never does. It's like tail all this time. Montreal shifting out their wingers, just incoherently here. Anybody have any questions beyond that for Montreal or their own Montreal piece? Damn.
Karma. I still feel bad that they sacked Courtois.
Yeah, well,
I still think it's just undeserved. That's where I'm coming from.
They did this to themselves. I just can't help but feel that I like Donadell, man. Honestly, I really do. I like how he's come in and kind of changed a bit of the side. It's just kind of the same thing with Montreal, though. They're just kind of that chaotic front office that just is just going to shoot themselves before they let any progress occur. So, you're right, but, man, it's still like, come on, you want to see them come through. If no one else has got any Montreal thoughts, Houston Dynamo played Colorado Rapids. We're going to talk about that more on Burgundy Banter, so probably won't give away too much here, but the big thing is Houston's got a new signing, Andrej Linger. It's about time, really. Still kind of unclear about Houston, their attack, where McGlynn's going to fit in. Maybe they will put him as a right attacking midfielder. How are you guys feeling about Houston as a whole? We'll go to Joss.
Look, it was really nice. Was it equalizer for Houston or win? It was an equalizer, right?
Yes, last minute
for Andrej. So that's great for them. I still can see what Ben Olsen is building down there, and like I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, or since he signed there, Jack McGlynn is a standout signing for them. I didn't watch this game, but I know that with Olsen's teams, he's a bit of a project builder, and when you lose so many, they lost their center back, whose name I forgot, the Brazilian one. They lost Hector Herrera. They lost a pretty sizable spine of their team, and in order to, it's going to take some time to rebuild from that. And these little point pickups, a draw at home isn't the best result in the league, but these little point pickups here or there, like that's part of this rebuild as a whole, and that's what I think Houston are going through. I don't know if they sneak a playoff position or not. I think they're probably still missing one or two pieces. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the summer transfer window for sure. But overall, I think that this is a Houston rebuild for sure, and I think Ben Olsen is probably the guy that they need for it.
I'm gonna throw it at Jeremy.
I do. I do have a quick Houston thought really quickly. Besides signing Linger, who, once again, very nice. It's always cool to get a big goal on your debut. They started new goalkeeper signing Jonathan Bond in this one.
I was about to say
That move, that move is ridiculous in my mind because you had a backup in Blake Gillingham who is 22 years old and was pretty impressive for a team just that isn't very good, that's still trying to figure out how they want to defend with the loss of Mikael. I don't know why you need to come in and bring in an international goalkeeper. I don't get that. I still don't. And still start him in this game, and he wasn't good at all in this game. Jonathan Bond was. So I think it's really unfair to Gillingham, who through his 4 appearances actually looked very, very good. Certainly better than Tarbell and Jimmy Maurer, who this club signed this past offseason to replace Steve Clark. Like the good goalkeeper is there. Play him. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I was about to say you're the guy that cursed because you brought up Gillingham on the pod, and then the next couple of days or so they signed Bond, and I was like, maybe the goalkeeper depth is that bad that they need another backup. But then they just went ahead and start him. So I'm with you there on that one. Maybe if there's any other goalkeepers you want to hype up, young goalkeepers, maybe just temper it a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. Anything else for Houston? I'm still not sold on them. I thought this was a bad loss or bad draw for the Rapids given where they were, but Linger is talent, right? So moving on, let's go to Toronto, who took on Real Salt Lake. I had a feeling this was going to be a win for Toronto. Just, the meeting of a team like Toronto, I've been kind of sitting down, forcing myself to really watch and pick apart versus a team like Salt Lake, who are clearly bad. I won't take otherwise, and concede stupid goals, have a poor attack. Lose against a pretty solid Toronto team, I will say. Daniel, had you on this one. What did you make of Toronto's performance here? Their first win on the road against, couldn't happen to a better team, Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, before we get into it, I just want to bring up Saturday, March 29th, they drew the Vancouver Whitecaps. On Sunday, April 6th, they drew Inter Miami. And on Saturday, April 12th, they drew Minnesota. That is 3 top 10 teams that they drew before beating Real Salt Lake. I think this Toronto team is turning things around. And
Let's go.
it starts with beating who you need to beat, right? So beating Real Salt Lake, that's a winnable game. Next week, they have NYCFC. That's starting to look like a more winnable game. On May 3rd, they have New England. That, it looks like a winnable game. And then on May 10th, they have DC United. Guys, I think we're going to see Toronto make a little bit of a run here. Does anyone disagree?
When you put it
I'm
like
going to
that,
chime in on this. Can I chime in on this? Because it's not only that those games are all winnable, those games are all at home. They don't play another road game until May 17th when they travel to Montreal. And then they don't play another road game after that until June 13th when they travel to LAFC. That is a ton of home games right in a row. This seems like a runway for them to pick up a ton of points and potentially get into that wild card conversation. Of course, they still have to execute, but when you look at your schedule and you just see home game, home game, home game, home game, home game, and you don't have to worry about traveling, like that's huge. That's so huge for them. That I think they make a huge run over this next month.
Look, Petretta has been awesome this year. Osorio's been good. Flores has been good. Insigne's been good. Bernadeschi's been good. These guys are turning a corner, man. If they can figure out a way to upgrade their center back position this summer, I think they're gonna be a playoff team.
Joss?
Crazy to think. I did not think that beginning of the year.
Joss,
I
did you
wanna
have
shout
something
out-
to say? Yeah, go for it.
I want to shout out the Toronto defense, specifically Sean Johnson, over these past few games. Looking at the results that Daniel just mentioned, we have a 1-1 in Miami, and I thought Sean Johnson was fantastic in that game. We have a 0-0 with Minnesota. You know, it's not Minnesota are a good counterattacking good, like they're a good team. And Sean Johnson clean sheet there. Another clean sheet in Salt Lake, a clean sheet against Vancouver. I feel like he's really had a sort of a mini renaissance as the season's progressed. I know I think we're over like a third in, something like that. But I just want to shout him out because I feel like he's kind of flown under the radar in how his turnaround has led to this Toronto mini turnaround as well. And I'd love if he can keep it up. I don't see why Toronto can't, because they definitely do have all the pieces to do so.
And well, I mean they've had the pieces, right? Insigne slowly getting back in helps, right? But man, you got to credit Robin Fraser, man. Like he came in, had a set style that Toronto played last year, played out of it a bit, switched it up, played out of this weird like 3-4-3. I don't even know what it was, 3-4-2-2. It was like a weird box structure that just clearly wasn't working. Shakes it up again. Now they're playing out of just a rudimentary 4-2-3-1. And I think for a while, Toronto's just been needing some guy to come in, simplify things. Because, I mean, the roster is not built to play, with wingbacks and 3-5-2s. And, it's kind of built now to just maximize the talent. And and best out of a 4-2-3-1, I think, with Robin in there. So I'm happy to see it because Toronto is like, it was like painstaking to watch the early games. So happy to see it kind of pay off a little bit, sticking with the team there. But they do got to execute now, right? At home. That's like, got to prove it now. Any other thoughts on Toronto? Let's move on then. We got Joss's team, SKC, went to San Jose. And, usually San Jose are the ones putting the beating on teams. 5 goals at PayPal Park. But this time we had a new sheriff in town. Sporting Kansas City come in 5-3. Joss, tell us about the match here. What did you make of SKC's performance?
We have a new sheriff in town, and his name is Kerry Zavagnin. Zavagnin ball is stressful. It is stressful, but it's fun. I feel better about this season just because we're actually creating things now. Vermes' last few games, we weren't creating very much. Now, like we're scoring 5 in one game. And just to give you some idea, the last time that Sporting KC scored 5 in one game was against the Montreal Impact in 2019. Not Club de Foot Montreal, the Montreal Impact, where it was a 7-1 home win. I think Johnny Russell got a hat trick that game.
Were you there?
Or Johan Quaze. No. I think it was Johnny Russell, though. The last time they scored 5 goals away from home was also in San Jose, interestingly enough. The last away win for Sporting Kansas City was July 2024, also in San Jose. And just this is also interesting. Shallowy scored his 1600th goal, or not his 1600th goal, God. No, the 1600th goal in Sporting Kansas City club history after scoring the 1500th goal in club history, also against San Jose. So, yeah, speaking of Daniel Shallowy, everyone bow down to the player of the week. This game, I have it in my notes here. I know that we've had our discussions about Daniel Shallowy in the past, but this game was really the tale of two Daniels. One for the Quakes, who missed the game because of injury, and then Daniel Shalhoub, who has 6 goals in 12 games against San Jose. And in 2021, he scored against them. And this is a quote. He said, "I'm not a fan of San Jose playing against them. They are playing very dirty football, and I don't think they deserve points ever," which is very funny. Shout out Daniel Shalhoub for that. But I did want to say this is the story of two Daniels, because Sporting Kansas City converted 5 goals off of 5 shots on target, off of 5 shots as a whole. So they had 5 shots, not shots on target, 5 shots, and scored 5 goals. And I truly think if Daniel, their normal number 1 for San Jose, were in goal, this isn't a 5-goal game. Earl Edwards Jr. did not have a good game in goal for San Jose, and I think that's where the problem was. But talking about the Quakes for a little bit, Rodriguez, he had a really bad game at that right center back position for San Jose. He got killed over the top for Daniel Shalhoub's first goal, which was a goalkeeper assist. John Polskamp, goalkeeper assist, baby. Let's go. On his birthday, shout out John Polskamp, fan of obviously the Wizards. Not a fan. He doesn't know who we are. But after the game, Rodriguez was that bad that in the quotes, Bruce basically said that there are certain players who won't see the field again unless they can clean up play and be more consistent. And I have a feeling that Rodriguez and Edwards Jr. were 2 of those players. Now, also for the Quakes, I don't know if we talked about this on recording, maybe not, but DeJuan Jones and I believe Noel Buck were both announced by Bogert to be on their way to San Jose. Is Noel Buck? Can we confirm that?
I don't know. Chat, can we?
Yeah.
It's confirmed. Yes, it's confirmed.
It's confirmed. Okay. I know DeJuan
Yeah,
Jones.
Bogert tweeted it.
Okay. So yeah, that's 2 players that I think instantly improve this Quakes team. I mean, DeJuan Jones goes in that right wing back spot, kind of where Christian Espinosa's been playing. This moves Espinosa more forward to like a right wing position, which is his preferred position. So I think that's a really smart signing. I know it was about $425,000 in GAM or something like that, which is a crazy amount of money. But for a player that Bruce is familiar with, that slots right into that right wing back spot, it feels good. So, do you guys also see them having a pretty high impact for the Quakes, both DeJuan Jones and Noel Buck?
I like Bruce Arena's commitment to the bit, and I can't fault him for that. But I do think that Jones is going to start playing on the left. I think he's more of a candidate to replace Vitor Costa than he is to replace Espinosa, because even though Espinosa is kind of like nominally a right back or a right wing back, he's actually putting in the defensive work pretty well on that spot. From that side, he's doing a pretty damn good job of just like being a 2-way wingback while still being one of the most threatening chance creators in the league. So I think that DeJuan Jones is more of a threat to take over at left wingback than right wingback, just purely because he can play both sides, and that's one of the best things about him. For SKC, Joss, you already touched on the 5 shots on goal, 5 goals thing, but Manu Garcia, even though he didn't put up the counting stats that Shalhoub did in this game, he's thoroughly impressive. And I was impressed with him a week ago when SKC lost 4-2 at home to the Portland Timbers. So
no, we didn't record. That doesn't count. We're talking about this week.
So I think that Garcia particularly is, I think he's going to be the key to the season more than just a Shalhoub, who I didn't realize how deep Shalhoub hated the San Jose Earthquakes, but I can only respect him for that, you know?
Yep.
Just Garcia and Suleimanov, both of them having like pretty solid outings over the past 2 games. I don't think that's any coincidence. I think they've been the players who've been energized the most by Vermees getting fired and Kerry Zavagnin taking over. So yeah, I'm this is a good win for Sporting Kansas City. I don't think they deserve to win this game like this, but I mean, the power of hatred and the power of spite goes a long way.
You know,
Truly.
I think one of the big benefits. Well, I think those will be last SKC thought, and then we'll move on. But for I think Shalhoub also, because remember he wasn't the first game starter for to start the season. There was a lot of Eric Tommy at the wing, which was kind of dreadful to watch, honestly. And so I think if anyone kind of is benefiting from the change as well, it's Shalwy. And, he's kind of the guy that will have a bad year and then regress to a, decent year. And then at times will pop off. I think this is going to be a good Shalwy season. Just based off, him having a player like Joveljic to play off of. You mentioned it too, Suleimanov also, who is a tidy player, I will say. Like he's not. There's still parts of his game where I'm like, kind of, fraud watching him a bit, but beyond that, he's very productive. If that makes, like, he's at least active and he's, working. I see hustle out of him more than, a lot of other wingers in the league. But yeah. Any other thoughts on SKC? Any closing thoughts, Josh, before we move on?
Nope. No, good win. Unlucky for San Jose, I think, but game is the game.
Another, those words could apply to another game here. DC United, who went to New York Red Bulls and came away with a 2-1 win, most notably without Christian Benteke. Josh, we'll stick with you because I had you on this one. What'd you make of DC United here in this one?
Firstly, Peglo. Golly, man. With no Christian Benteke, you need players DC needed players to step up, and Joao Peglo had 2 fantastic goals. I know you guys have probably seen his second goal, the overhead kick from a tight angle to I think it was probably winning goal of the week this week. But I do want to touch on Peglo's first goal because it's so hard to what he does is he flicks the ball with his head from a goal kick. He flicks the ball over Tim Parker with his head, brings it down, and slots it home. That is, in my opinion, I love the overhead kick, but the technical ability to do that past Tim Parker, who is no slouch. I mean, I know he's getting up there, but he's been in MLS for a long time, been at a ton of different teams, had a lot of impact there. But to do it to him, I think that might be a better goal. So yeah, DC obviously gets a 2-1 win off of a strong Peglo performance. And yeah, like you're saying, it was kind of a smash and grab almost. New York Red Bulls, they switched off of this 3-back to a 4-2-3-1 position, and I don't know how smart that is because DC stuck with the 3-4-3. I feel like if the Red Bulls had stuck to this 3-4-2-1 that they'd been playing, they could have at least been more decisive, more punctual, more been stronger up front. I think that their attack looked a little disconnected. I saw that Barraza is making his second start in 2 games. But I get that Kim was probably dropped after shipping 6 against San Jose, and that's hard. I mean, as a goalkeeper, how can you even come back from shipping 6 goals, right? Especially if you're the number 1. That's hard. The goalkeeper is a hard position to be in. So it was sort of the battle of the keepers to start off. Coronel had a couple of great saves. Then Peglo shows up, has a great first goal, has an overhead kick for the second goal. Choupo-Moting scores to bring it back to 2-1, and I really like this little Forsberg assist where it looks like he's kind of just heading it to head it. It's like off a corner. It's okay, like he's heading it just to head it, but he's actually playing a really smart ball for Choupo-Moting to finish on the volley, which I really do like. But in the end, this rivalry game ends with a DC United win in New York Red Bulls spot, which ends a 4-game losing streak for DC. I know we talked about DC being on fraud watch because they hadn't really played anybody. They kind of latched onto that because they went through a really bad 4-game losing streak. Obviously shipping 6 at San Jose being the low lights, some would say. But getting a win against a decent Red Bulls team is always fun, especially because they're such an old rivalry. And I also did want to shout out Lucas Bartlett and Jared Stroud, just because they both have brothers in MLS. And I wonder what the record is for a team to have players that also have siblings playing in MLS, because I feel like 2 is pretty out of the ordinary.
Well, Wolf has got 3, no?
True. I talk
Tyler...
maybe different families.
Oh, okay.
Like Bartlett and Stroud, 2 different families.
Right. Oh, damn. There would have to be you'd have to get You'd have to get one of the Wolves in there. Does
Yep.
Berhalter, does that count?
I
Sebastian.
think there's only Seba. I don't think there's another
Well,
Berhalter in the league.
Greg, his dad, would that not count?
He's a coach. That doesn't count.
All right,
He's
that
a
wouldn't
player.
count then. That wouldn't count then.
If he suits up, which he won't have the balls to do, then I don't think it counts. But he could. You could change that, Greg Berhalter. Put on the kit and some boots. Go for a kickabout.
Before we get too far into the MLS family royalty dynamics here, does anyone else have any thoughts on DC? Because I have a lot, but I kind of want to open it up to Daniel and Jeremy if they have any thoughts here on DC specifically.
I'm just happy that I predicted that João Peglo was actually going to be pretty good. I like that. I like when I predict things and they turn out to be pretty good. But I do think this game said more about Red Bulls than it does about DC. And I think that's a bad thing.
What about you, Daniel? Got anything about DC?
No, I don't have anything about DC this week.
So I want to go on a tangent here for DC because the fact that they looked better with Benteke off kind of, I don't know, it speaks something to me, as Jeremy alluded to. Herrera could be an amazing center back. Instead of putting him on as a wing back, I think you put Derek Dotson out there, and you got at least a bit more of a dynamic wing back in him. Herrera is a bit better as a stay-at-home kind of guy, and he's probably the best passer of the ball defensively. I don't know why you wouldn't want to build out of the back with Herrera. But beyond that, like for me, this DC team is still ass. They gave away a lot, and the Red Bulls just didn't punish them. If you're a team that can punish DC, you absolutely will, because they were just inviting Red Bulls to come in and score on them. And I do like the Peglo shouts because he is that good. But it's time to kind of move on a little bit from Benteke, or at least figure out a way to make Peglo the point of attack, because he's got talent, man. Josh is he's really stating how amazing that first goal was, because that first goal freaking perked my ears up and my everything up. I was like, okay, Peglo. It was for real one of the first times I seen oh, this guy is a really good player, as Jeremy alluded to. But DC still upset because they're not playing Fidel Barajas. He's right there still. Well, maybe he's not there. I don't see him on the bench. But they criminal not to get that guy on the pitch. Let's move on. Let's go over to Atlanta, who lose 3-0. We'll open it up, talk about this in regards to everyone. I figured this would be a good one to kind of have the whole cast on, because one, we get to talk about kind of one of the most disappointing teams of the season so far, and I think we've alluded a lot to what the problem could be there. But Atlanta, even up a man, because they were up a man for what, about
like 40 minutes maybe.
Yeah,
I feel like it was like that.
56-minute Lukic second yellow. And there's some of the Lukic greenness still developing player. There's some of that green still there of like a not a rookie mistake, but what would you say, like a young mistake that you don't see a guy like, I don't know, Chara doing, but
yeah,
young mistake there by Lukic, and Philadelphia didn't really need it because they went on and scored anyways. Let's talk about Atlanta first, and then we'll talk more about Philly, because I feel like Philly really needed this game. But Atlanta, how are we feeling now about this team, guys? Because they suck, dude. They're not fun. Who wants to start this Atlanta discourse?
Can I start with some thoughts on Gaffer Ronnie?
Gaffer Ronnie.
So I don't know why the hire of Ronnie Delia got so much praise league wide. Like, cool, you brought in a coach who won MLS Cup with NYCFC. Did you see how he won that cup? Did you see the numerous penalty shootouts that this team had to get involved in? Because first of all, Sean Johnson stands on his head during most of regulation during that playoff run, and just the center back pairing of Alex Callens and Maxime Chanel are just putting in so much hard work throughout those games. Like, I never really saw it with Gaffer Ronnie. And I absolutely don't see it now, considering it's been 3 months of this season, and he still has no idea how to utilize the top signing from last season, Alexei Moranchuk. He's completely lost out there. And I think maybe bringing Miguel Almiron back was a bit of nostalgia, and they tried to go forward by going back, and maybe that didn't work. But I don't think it's as big a deal if you have Moranchuk on the roster and they both contrast and they play the same position. But wait, the front office knew that. The front office knew that this was going to happen. Oh my word. I don't think Gaffarani can be blamed for that. But Gaffarani certainly can be blamed for just all of the silly defensive mistakes that this team makes. And I know you invested so much in the attack, and this is the second game in a row where that attack has scored 0 goals. But at least make yourself a little bit harder to beat. This Atlanta team wasn't really that hard to beat last year, at least until Rob Valentino got them really excited to play Miami in the playoffs. And I'm now looking at this schedule. Did you know that from May 31st to July 12th, Atlanta plays 6 straight road games?
Well,
That's brutal.
the case could be made. They're probably better on the road.
But those road games, you have both New York teams. You have Columbus, you have Miami, you have DC led by the Joao Peg Show, and you have Toronto, a suddenly tough to beat Toronto, who's also going to have a run of home games during that stretch. So I think it's kind of crazy to be like, time is running out for Gaffer Ronnie to try and fix whatever this mess is, but it very much is, because you could see this team heading into a June 28th game on the road in at Inter Miami, and they could be out of the playoff spots. But the more than anything, more than fixing whatever the attacking woes that they have are, they got to just be better at the back. Like, I think it's really funny whenever Brad Guzan just gets like flat-footed by a shot and just like falls backward onto his ass. But there's a reason why that's happening, because the players in front of him are kind of letting him down, even though he's not really doing himself any favors. I don't know. Fix the defense first before trying to figure out where the pieces in this attack are supposed to go.
Anyone else want to talk about Atlanta?
I want to echo Jeremy's sentiments about the defense. I have in my notes, Atlanta are such a mess defensively, and that's coming from an SKC fan. Some of these goal mouth scrambles wouldn't look out of place in a Three Stooges movie. Yeah, I only put the Three Stooges movie line because I couldn't remember the name of that music that plays. It's like
Benny Hill.
Yes, Benny Hill. Put that over the goal mouth scramble before Quinn Sullivan's banger. By the way, Quinn Sullivan, what a goal! But literally put that over, and you will be like this, and make it black and white, and you'll think you're watching something from the 1950s. Just a mess defensively. Golly, and I know Doyle pointed it out on the second goal, but like Lennon kind of just wanders off into like 3 Philadelphia defenders, and then 3 passes later, and Danley's shooting it through Guzan's legs. Like, it's calamitous. That's what it is. Thoughts on Gaffarani? I will say, consider where NYCFC won that MLS Cup and which team Jeremy supports, and we might have some idea of his hatred.
Irrelevant.
But I do think he's making very valid points. So, Yeah, I just feel bad because I picked Atlanta as my Shield winner, and good God, man.
Hey, I want to be right there with you because it definitely felt like at the time there was a big arms race to just buy players. And, you know, there's teams that have successfully spent, and Atlanta in the past have successfully spent. So to see it not translate here, because it is a very much like you think you can buy the league, but you really can't. And I think that's a really cool thing. It's also a fraud thing for Atlanta. Daniel, you got anything on Atlanta, or do you have anything to say about Philly here?
I said at the beginning of the season that for this year to be a flop for Atlanta, Brad Guzan would have to be really, really bad. And that's kind of coming to fruition, even though everybody that is in front of him is also very, very bad. The only thing that really cracks me up is I don't think Atlanta fans have ever missed Miles Robinson more in their life. And their problem with Amador and Cobb would be fixed if they still had Caleb Wiley, who's currently riding pine at Watford. I understand you have to sell him. Chelsea wants him for 10 mil, but it's just crazy to say if they just have those two players who are, I mean, Miles Robinson is not a DP. They probably could have figured something out there. And Caleb Wiley, maybe they hang on to him for a year. This team is significantly better. But I don't know. That's just me. I'm kind of living in the past. Can't do that.
So is Atlanta, by the way. They love living in the past. Oh boy,
Yes, they
do
do.
they ever?
They
Their
kind of
Twitter fans love talking about their trophies.
They kind of deserve this after it was reported that Miguel Almiron was linked to Charlotte. I think they hijacked the deal. There was like a little bit of a score and deliver. They came in. They said, "No, you can't have Miggy. Only we can have Miggy." And now that
Saying
they
it's
have,
karma.
yep, that's what I was saying.
That's hilarious. Love
Let's talk
that.
about Philly though, guys, because now they are 3 without a loss. Some good results at home. I know they're gonna miss Ian Glavinovich, who was really starting to look. Is it Ivan or Ian? I always like unsure of that one. I think it's Ian. Ian
I think it's
Glavinovich.
Ian. I think you're Mandela affecting yourself because Glavinovich.
Yeah, the little V in there.
Yeah.
They
It's
didn't.
like, oh, the first name's got to have a V in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't play Macania this one. They opted for Harriel as a center back. Westfield, who's been a surprise this season, very, very good right back for Philly. I mean, no Gazdag, no problem for a team like Atlanta. But I'm trying to see their next few games. You guys are always a lot better at having those up than I am. But I'm glad to see Union are still kind of kicking, especially after they kind of tumbled a bit. I'm glad I stuck true to the Whitecaps take there, as they are still very firmly in first place. We'll get to them eventually. But nothing else here for me on Philly besides Harriel at center back.
So Philly has DC United next winnable game, Montreal next winnable game, Indy 11 in the Open Cup. We don't count that. Then they go to Columbus comes to Philly. I mean, that should be a really good game. But yeah, no. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I said we need to start having conversation about Quinn Sullivan being the best American young playmaker in the league. Because I mean, I think it's time that conversation kind of a real one. And Kai Wagner is still the best left back in the league.
I'll have to come back to you on that one. It can't be that easy. But anyone else have any thoughts on Philly?
Can I make one more? Can I add on to that Nathan Harriel point? This isn't about Philly. This is going back to Atlanta. But
Okay.
Gaffarani, they're playing fullbacks at center back against you. And you're ending games with 12 shots and only 3 of them on target, man. Like, Gaffarani, you gotta put it together.
I love the Gaffarani hate watch here. Maybe not as much as a nice St. Louis hate watch. They played Vancouver Whitecaps 2-0. Very, very fun, right? To see this one between two defensively stout teams. But, I mean, I really thought they were going to get a bit healthier here. Joyner in as at a fullback spot for a little bit. But, I mean, still no Giannis Horn. Still no Totland. Still no Berkey, still no Durkin, still no Lowen, still a lot of injuries for the side. And I'm going to venture to guess, even if you had those players, I still don't think this team is really ever shown how they can get out of the next gear, out of this kind of just stale style of play. Like, I know Columbus and St. Louis played to a 2-1 last week, but that felt more like a 0-0 than anything. And I was going to say, it's like even the games with goals in St. Louis feel like just such chores to watch. This is my least favorite team to watch on a week-by-week basis, which is why I assigned it to myself. But I also assigned Vancouver here, so I mean, I'll talk about Vancouver as we get later there. But does anyone else want to chime in about St. Louis? I mean, still injury. I mean, Klaus got his goal, but then nothing out, and then he didn't follow it up with another goal here. So we can all go back to pretending he didn't score last game. Anybody?
I think he did it to spite me.
Honestly, despite all of us, really, and it was such
I had
a
007
soft goal.
locked and loaded.
Oh yeah, that was the game.
Yep, that was the 7th. I know. Bad things happen to good people. I do want to say one thing, and this is also SKC related, so pardon me. But at the beginning of the season, when Manu and Choppy were announced, St. Louis fan quote tweeted and said, "Oh, a right wing in the camp who can't score in the Greek league. What good signings." In the last 5 games, Choppy has more goal contributions than St. Louis has goals.
Total for the season.
That is an incredible stat. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that sums
even
up
more
St.
so.
Louis.
Yeah, and then a St. Louis fan said, "Well, we have more clean sheets, and defense builds championships." And what would a St. Louis City fan know about championships?
I did see that interaction. That was one of my favorites over the weekend.
Yeah. Sorry. I had to plug, but
No worries. Jeremy, you got something for STL or?
Yeah. I do have one thing. I think St. Louis should have won this game, but it was a very bad call that kept their lone goal off of the score sheet, and that's unfortunate. I mean, unfortunate for them, kind of funny for everyone else. Once again, bad guys, not good. I would like to touch on João Klaus coming out of hibernation against Columbus, even though that was last week. They are they're actually kind of fun to watch when João Klaus is like performing like the DP that he's supposed to be. And when he's just becoming an absolute bully in the box and just becoming a human wrecking ball, he doesn't do that enough. And honestly, like it's frustrating, so frustrating to watch this team. And I want to echo Juanners' sentiment that they're the most frustrating team in this and infuriating team in this league to watch. Because previously I had Austin for that because Austin just wanted to be cowardly, and that was their whole like mentality to do so. Like St. Louis, I think like they tried to attack at points, but they just didn't know how, and I blame the injuries a lot for that. But I mean, when you're solid defensively, you're going to be able to pick up some points. And this is still a good result for them. I don't care really that Vancouver had to deal with CCC before this, because one thing Sorensen has shown is no matter who he rotates in, they're going to be fine. So, yeah, I think this is a fine result for St. Louis, but I'm still waiting to see what they're actually going to look like once they do get their entire list of injured players back, because you kind of have to lump these injuries in with them. So, yeah.
TBD for STL. Let's head over to next team ahead of them in the standings, Real Salt Lake. Again, we talked about Toronto, my bad. We talked about Toronto's game, how they kind of came out, have been kind of denying or proving people wrong just a tiny bit. But Salt Lake, I love seeing these losses because it's exactly the RSL performance that I am used to seeing and the one that is justified for them. But Daniel, tell us about RSL's performance here.
I think Real Salt Lake is who we thought they were when they lost to Club Sport Herediano in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And that is trash. Like they are just not very good. Um, they've beaten who they need to beat, which would be Seattle, Houston, and hold on, LA Galaxy. But they something that they struggle with that would really help them stay in like that bubble zone would be actually being able to get some draws out of these close games. They lost 2-1 to Nashville. They lost 1-0 to Dallas. And I don't think any of us here rate Dallas incredibly high. And those are probably two drawable games. We know Nashville always struggles to score in like the
Well,
last 15 minutes of games.
I will actually say if those are drawable games, then you got a real issue at Salt Lake because these are home games. Not the Nashville one. That one was on the road. But at home against Toronto, at home against Dallas, like
Yeah,
these got to be wins. Home
exactly.
against San Diego, loss. 4-0 on the road against San Jose, probably exposed what this team really is. But
They're just not very good.
and now they're without Diego Luna for their next match.
Which was
No,
a
that was
which was a horrible red, by
that was
the way.
rescinded.
That was a
I think it was
horrible.
rescinded.
Oh, it was rescinded.
It should have been. It should have been.
Yeah.
That was a horrible, horrible red. But I mean, they just got bullied by Toronto. I wasn't gonna. I was gonna look at their season more as a whole because when we talked about Toronto, we kind of talked about how Toronto just kind of did whatever they wanted to them. So there's no point of really going into the game. They just didn't look very good.
Yeah, one thing I will say about their striker, Berea, who is a college draft pick. I do quite like him. He goes into my list of players that I wish weren't on RSL so I could support them. But I'm really happy that they have Gonsalves and Marshuk out there. Those are awesome RSL players, neither of whom have seen the back of the net for a while. So keep it up, y'all.
Where did Berea go to college?
I don't even know, dude.
You just like him. Cool.
Yeah, I just see college super draft pick and young striker. He's from Spain, so maybe
Hell yeah.
an alternate career path. I'm always a big fan of those, especially like Luna. Luna's the same guy, He kind of cut his teeth, in a different way. So I'm always willing to highlight those stories. But no more RSL talk. Honestly, I'm getting just tired of them. New England Revolution have they changed up their formation. Still got Daniel on the call here for New England. They were able to beat New York City 2-0. Finally, got some open play goals, which is they still didn't have last week. I don't think they did, or maybe they had scored one because they won 1-0. But Leo Campana in, Ganago in, two strikers getting each a goal. Kind of good to see someone else stepping up. This change to a 3-5-2 has just been everything. But Daniel, what are you making of New England so far in this match?
My thoughts on New England all season have been they have struggled to score from the striker position. And when we got our assignments on Saturday, and when I knew I was going to be watching New England, that was going to be my thought after watching this game. They struggled to score from the striker position. So of course, both strikers scored, and that could be the start of something really, really good for a New England team that has 4 wins in their last 5, something along those lines. Let me look. They've beaten Atlanta, NYCFC,
3 in their last 4.
3 in their last 4. And those are pretty decent wins, particularly the Red Bull win. So yeah, if they're going to start getting goals from their strikers, I mean, Miller looks good, Polster looks good, Gill looks good, Yusuf looks good, Beeson looks good, Fofana looks good, Caballos looks good, Ivacic looks solid. Like this team is not a bad team from its spine, and I think, yeah, I just can't stop reiterating. Ganago and Campana get hot. These guys can get hot. Now, I don't think they're going to be hot against Charlotte. That's a pretty tough next game when you're trying to turn the season around. But I mean, they have winnable games in the future, and I think New England can work themselves into a bubble position for sure.
Well, you know what's
Maybe
gonna
even
help?
beyond that.
You know what's going to help a
What's
lot?
that?
Thomas Chankalai, baby. I am a huge Thomas Chankalai fan. He subbed in, got some minutes, still kind of easing his way back in. But really, New England just got rid of Luca Langoni and they started cooking. Like, I've never seen a team just drop a player and then just, have some solid games in a quick amount of time, quick amount of turnaround time too. But Gill's playing well, and that's really the step towards the right direction for New England, is just get Gill cooking. Anyone else have any thoughts? Do we have any Porter supporters here on the panel?
Did someone say Porter supporter?
Yeah, for Caleb.
What have I been saying all year? Well, next year they will win the cup.
Okay,
Glad to see that they're already getting back on that trajectory. Porter cycle isn't dead until it dies, and it isn't dead yet.
I think it'll die. I think it will, but that's only because NYC. We'll talk about NYC when we get to them, but they're not too far. But I think just how you said the Red Bull result says a lot about them. I think this says a lot about New York City, but home for New England, good result. I don't know.
I'm just upset that we haven't said New England's undergoing a revolution.
You just did.
I know.
Thank you for that.
There. It was a layup. Yeah.
I know.
Well,
I don't know if I ever told you guys this, but I missed a lot of layups in high school. So I'm not gonna start. I'm not gonna start making them now.
On the Patreon is Daniel's high school basketball highlight. Subscribe.
Did you dunk?
It's a charity. Thank you.
Did you dunk?
You said, could I dunk? I am 5'9". Absolutely not.
Oh, I thought you.
I'm a short king. No. Yeah, absolutely yes. I have dunked. No one here knows me. No one here's ever seen me. I can absolutely dunk. 100%.
Let's move on to a team that got dunked, San Jose. Joss kind of alluded to it a little bit with the signings there. I think it's very funny that San Jose and New England are next to each other in the standings, just sharing and trading and swapping ex-teammates and Bruce guys and Porter guys, and it's all very, very funny. For San Jose, we were talking about all the acquisitions, right? It's very funny that they're keeping true to the, acquiring New England kind of pieces, right? But if you were just going to start acquiring New England pieces, you should have just gone for the best one in Carlos Gill. I think, why would you go and get Harks and K when they're both kind of the same player? You know what I mean? And of the two, I think Mark Anthony K is better than Ian Harks, but we'll go back to Joss. Anything else on San Jose? I know we brushed it a bit, but...
Yeah, I touched on them a little. They're fun. They're fun. They're so fun to watch. Their games are going to be fun to watch. You're going to be entertained.
Yes.
They're like top 3 in XG, and they're the second highest scorers in the league. They have Chicho Arango. They have Josef Martinez. They have Christian Espinoza, who is like Jeremy kind of alluded to. He's still creating a lot from this right wing back position that Bruce has him playing in. And even on the bench, they have like Preston Judd, who can come in and deliver a couple things. I want to say San Jose still did score 3 goals this game, and on the penalty for Chicho Arango, Preston Judd had the craziest dummy that it sold me. I was just sitting there watching it. It broke my ankles. I had to pick myself up off the floor of my living room because of how good this dummy was.
I think Preston Judd could reliably start for an expansion team, or at the very least a team that doesn't have a out-and-out striker right now.
Agreed. I agree.
I think he's probably best rotational coming into these spots, but he's great depth at the striker position. I think his development's been nice to see. It just sucks that Arango and Martinez are ahead of him there, and then you got Buddha, who is also very electric, very fun, ahead of him. So there's competition there, but I do quite like Judd.
Definitely agree. No, their games are going to be fun. If you have a friend who's like, oh, I don't know, I like soccer, but MLS is make them watch the San Jose game. There's so much heritage there with Bruce Arena. You could probably spend the whole game just talking about Bruce Arena's history within the league.
His last 2 years.
Yeah, his last 2 years, his last job. How no one knows what he did in New England. how he's brought all of his New England boys over with him to San Jose, and he's still going out and plucking them out of different teams. So I think, San Jose are a good advertisement for what MLS can be. And like Jeremy said during the SKC talk, any other day I think they win this game. They had more XG, they had more shots on target, but they had a backup keeper in net instead of their very reliable Daniel, and it cost them.
Speaking from experience, we also have a very reliable Daniel, and
We do.
having a very reliable Daniel can make all the difference.
I should have put Daniel on this one. I know Joss is the SKC guy, but we would have had Daniel on the Earthquakes, Daniel Shallowy, and then Daniel, the OTB assignee. So could have been a triple Daniel there. Maybe
We'll get him next time.
That'll be the name of the pod, a triple Daniel.
Triple D's.
Going back to Daniel, actually, because we do have New York City up next ahead of San Jose in the standings. Talked about New England, how they beat New York City. Now it's time to talk about New York City. Largely, our analysis has been they still don't have a Santiago Rodriguez replacement. That is still true, everybody. They still don't have a Santi Rodriguez replacement. But beyond that, they dropped Keaton Parks, which was a stupid idea. I don't know why you would drop one of the best midfielders in the league like that. He quickly came back on in the second half, and New York looked a lot better, like genuinely a lot better. He is. I don't know where this drop came from. I know you want to have Backraw in there, and Ojeda and Wolf and more attacking options, but man, it was just not good for New York City. What'd you make of New York in this one, Daniel?
They do this thing where they play against physical opponents and just kind of fall apart. Something I've noticed that has kind of been a step. I've always thought NYCFC was a more physical team, particularly these past 2 years, and they're just kind of shying away from that identity anymore. The Keaton Parks thing was 100% head scratching. I have no idea what was going on there. The season started. They got a result against Miami. I thought they were going to be a decent squad this year, but they've kind of underperformed my expectations. I'm going to keep that short. I have like a breaking news thing for Joss. So while we were talking about the last team, I was reading an article from another contributor who said that RSL is is targeting Johnny Russell. How does that make you feel, Joss? Is that like a sad moment for you? Instant reaction.
What? Johnny? You can't even pronounce Mormon without it sounding funny. You're Scottish.
Mormon.
Mormon.
I don't even think that solves RSL's issues, honestly.
Nah, I don't think so either. I also don't know if... I mean, he's 36. He'll be 37 this year, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't realize he was that old. Put him in a retirement home. My God.
Yeah, RSL, like they used to be kind of rivals with SKC, kind of falling off. I really don't care what they do anymore. If it was St. Louis, I'd be burning things. There'd be things on fire. But yeah, good for get a payday, Johnny. Go do it.
If you think 37's bad, New York City's still rocking with Maxi Morales at 38. So
not only rocking with him, Juanners, not only rocking with him, he's probably still their most important player. Which is insane.
90. He's pulling 90. We talk about Messi putting in shifts, bro. Morales at 38 is still putting in shifts, dude. He went the full 90 in this one. But
he's witnessed like 7 different wars in his lifetime, and he's still the best player on his team for NYCFC. I love that.
Can I say one quick thing about Pascal Jensen? It seems like every week he goes into a post-game press conference and says, well, I need these players to show me like who's the I need them to show me who the best team is. Like, that's your job, buddy. Your job is to figure out what your best team is. And I feel like you have no clue what it is right now. And I think a lot of that is just due to like how much congestion New York has like just on the wings. Like on this team you have Julian Fernandez, you have Agustin Ojeda, Hannes Wolf, and your idea is to play Monsef Brakar out there. Why?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that, Pascal? You can you have so many good wingers on this team, and you're putting in Bakrar, who famously has been hard done to score goals for this team. And did you think he was the answer out wide? Like, give Julian Fernandez a go again. I miss like watching Julian Fernandez a couple of years ago, where I was like, wow, this guy can absolutely be a player here.
Well,
And
even beyond that, Talis Magno's gone. You know, they're also missing Malachi Jones, who is every bit of player he is. But man, no, you're right. They're just congested there, and Baccarat is meh. It's meh. It's meh
just
right now.
figure out your best 11, Pascal. This is your job. That's what you have to do. I feel
Pascal.
like it's a kind of a Gaffarani moment, just figure out where your players fit and try and play them. You should know this by now.
He's not even Gaffer Pascal. He's just Pascal.
Yeah.
First name basis. Maybe a little bit disrespectful, but so has been New York City this so far. So maybe play some good games. Moving forward, let's go to FC Dallas. They went on the road to Minnesota. Joss, I had you on this one. What can you tell us about this matchup here? A 0-0. You see, you thought you could get away from them, but no.
What did I do to you, man?
I thought Minnesota were gonna give you the classic destroy their defense, but that didn't happen. In fact, you got a Lawless sighting, which was kind of surprising. Because I think Wallace Abubakar is not starter quality, but he got the start here and still carried out the 0-0. But what'd you make of Dallas here?
It is kind of weird to see Lawless not in a Colorado Rapids shirt. I honestly at times I felt like it was tattooed on him, and I always associated him with the Rapids, especially like 2018 to 2022, 23, that's
right.
who I thought of when I thought of Rapids. So it was weird. It was weird seeing him in a Dallas jersey. But on the other center back for Dallas, who his name we're big. It starts with an I. I can never pronounce it.
Hide.
Yes.
He is very good.
He's
really
awesome.
like him.
Hide. Yeah, he was really good in this game. I thought. I think he had a chance where he hit the post as well off of a corner. Really, really exciting center back they brought over, I think from the French league, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, from
Amiens.
Yeah. So really exciting player that I want to see more of for Dallas. But there's not much to say about this Dallas game. I mean, Lucho was on the bench. No Peter Musa, who, if he had played, probably scores a hat trick, and that is not for my agenda. That is not coming from my agenda. That's just coming from pure ball knowledge, which we all have in abundance. Dallas had a couple of chances early on, like before that, like in the first 9 minutes, where Logan Farrington and Anderson Julio both had shots that forced Dane St. Clair to make a save. And if Peter Musa was in those positions, maybe we're seeing a goal. But yeah, it was kind of a snooze fest. I can't lie. Not a lot to say about Dallas. Lucho came on and they instantly looked better. It seems like he's settling more and more in Dallas with every game. I know we've all been looking at like Evander and how well he's done out in Cincinnati. But Lucho Acosta's quietly getting more and more comfortable with this with FC Dallas ball. And I think it's a different game if he plays the full 90 and if Peter Moose is there. But yeah, 0-0 for Dallas away in Minnesota, who are a really strong team. So I think if you're a Dallas fan, you're taking that every day.
Any other Dallas thoughts before we move on, fellas?
I do. I think it's kind of odd to start 3 defensive midfielders in this game, even though this is a weird team selection from Eric Quill. But the reason why I'm saying so is because you are on the road in Minnesota. Minnesota has shown this year that they just don't want the ball. They want to hit you in transition. And I get having like an extra defensive midfielder back there to try and like nullify that. But I think it does severely limit you in possession. I don't know why Acosta came off the bench in this game, but I'd also like to make just a quick observation for both of the managers in this game. Eric Ramsey, he looks like a leprechaun, and Eric Quill kind of looks like a teddy bear who wished to become a man. So I think that's really funny, and also they're both named Eric. Dallas is weird, and I'm chalking a lot of that up just to the injuries they have. Like Leo Chu's out, Marco Farfan's out, Paxton Pomacall, who's like the forgotten man in this league.
God,
Like,
yeah, I
it's
forgot
over,
about him.
dude.
you
I don't
know,
think about
how
I
old
don't
is
think about
Paxton
him.
Pomacall, guys? Take a guess. How old do you think Paxton Pomacall is?
He's been around a while. I think he's 24.
I was gonna guess 24 as well. He's 25.
He is 25. Yeah. So I think it's still a little bit too early to like truly judge Dallas. I need to see them like at full health, but at the same time, like I don't know what on this team is actually going to inspire any hope. I mean, why are you not starting Lucho Acosta, your big offseason acquisition? Why are you not starting him in this game against a Minnesota team that is just terrified of having the ball? Why are you going to take one of your most valuable assets in possession and put him on the bench? I don't get that. Weird decision from the teddy bear.
Man, we're coming up with all these doozies for the managers now. We got Gaffer Ronnie, Gaffer. Who's the other Gaffers that we've gone through?
Well, it's not Gaffer Pascal. He hasn't earned that
It's
yet.
just Pascal.
Yeah.
Man, and now we got Teddy Bear and Leprechauns. This was a doozy here. Especially since no goals. I mean, you said it. How are you not starting Lucho Acosta here? Let's move forward.
Hey, but Morris Duggan got on the pitch though. Good for him.
I was going to talk about that once we got to Minnesota, but yes, you are right. He made his reemergence. Let's talk though Red Bulls. We touched a bit about the Red Bulls when we were talking about DC United. Going over to Joss. This is what I will say about the Red Bulls. They are not a team that can punish mistakes. You give them the ball, they're just going to pass until they feel comfortable. And it's that one little bit of discomfort. It's that long ball from Luis Barraza that just takes a bounce, right? And Paglo's right there, takes it, on an easy bounce. Easy show of class, beats you out, chasing the game. Like, there were so many times DC gave the Red Bulls, like, an easy transition, quick smash and grab back. And the Red Bulls were just fine with, let's just play our style, our possession style. Slept and got caught out. I don't know if you agree with that, Josh. What'd you make of the Red Bulls in this one? I kind of wanted to rant about it because I got pissed watching them this week.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to rant about them, Juan. I agree with you. I also think that the Red Bulls at home kind of feel like it kind of feels like they feel like they can just sleepwalk into wins. I know they went out and snagged Choupo-Moting. I know that they still have Emil Forsberg, obviously. But it didn't feel like there was any urgency. There didn't feel like there to be any urgency. So, well, yeah, that's what it feels like for me too. It's just kind of feels like a sleepwalker, an urgency problem.
Yeah, their wing problem. They also have an issue at the wing. They have Dennis Gangar as the wing back, not doing anything of note towards the attack. Cameron Harper did. He was all right, but if you can force the ball out wide for the Red Bulls, they're not gonna do anything because in the middle you have Forsberg and Choupo-Moting operating in the same space. Moting's not running, creating space. Forsberg's not dropping to start plays. So it's kind of like two guys just kind of waiting for the ball in advanced spots, and it never comes to them. And when it does, they're in each other's ways. It's like, man, this team is like, all the attack is just gone. So maybe they really were missing Dante Van Zier, which is kind of crazy to say, but he was going crazy in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I also think like their lineup, like I said, they moved away from a 3-back for this game, so maybe it was simply an idea like they got confused because they're not used to the system,
Yeah. Yeah. Sean Nealis also got dropped. That what is it with teams dropping their best players? I don't get this. Like Luciano Acosta didn't play. Keaton Parks didn't play. Sean Nealis on the bench. This is his third game on the bench. I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't get it.
Juan, don't you know? We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
That
I think it's weird because Sean is on the bench, and I believe that Dylan went off injured. So the Red Bulls are now looking at a potentially a Neil-less future.
Nice.
I had to make that one. That was terrible.
Nice.
But yeah, I feel they don't inspire confidence in me at all. This Red Bulls team. It's
Nope.
still so funny they put Choupo-Moting on a DP contract.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say deserved, but Choupo-Moting on DP track.
I think for me it's kind of that, but it's also like Coronel is finally having a standout season at goalkeeper, and you could be using him to bail you out of big moments, and instead, he's bailing you out of he didn't even get a chance to bail the team out. They let him down there. But yeah, they're wasting Coronel like a good solid Coronel year because he's been their best player, and that says a lot about the Red Bulls right now. Anyways, let's move forward to Seattle. They beat Nashville 3-0. Going to go over to Jeremy. Initial takeaways here from Seattle. They are slowly getting back their attacking pieces. It kind of helps to beat Nashville, and kind of get jump started on a little attacking spurt here. But Seattle finally coming out of their shells. What'd you make of your favorite team here?
They've won 2 games over the past 2 weeks, and both of those games are games they should have won. So I don't really have any oh my god, they're back or anything. No, those are games you'd expect the Seattle Sounders to win. But what I am going to say is this is the second home game this year where they've scored at least 3 goals. If I extended it to games where they scored multiple goals, you'd have the season opener where they drew Charlotte 2-2. I think it's going to be about finding a little bit more consistency, and also just time to start a conversation about whether or not Danny Musovski is their answer at striker that they've been looking for so long.
When
Because
he scores,
I think he
right?
is.
When he scores.
Yeah, he scores goals. I mean, Jordan Morris, he comes off the bench. He does his little get in behind run, and then he fires a shot right at the goalkeeper, he does that stuff. He loves doing it. He's addicted to just shooting the ball right at the goalkeeper. Jesus Ferreira has 2 assists in this game. Both of them, I like the second one a lot. The assist to Rothrock where he crosses the ball across the box and just finds Rothrock open at the back post. I think there's another game that says a little bit more about Nashville than it does about Seattle. Even though Pedro de la Vega, I think I gotta give him a round of applause for finally scoring an open play goal in MLS play. Good on you, Pedro. You played another hour, you got your goal. He's been hungry this year. I can't even be mad at that. But this is a game I think that says a little bit more about Nashville. And this is a game that the Seattle Sounders absolutely could have and should have been winning. But I think another interesting stat in this game is that they only held 48% possession. And a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that they were up 3-0 at halftime. But even in the second half, they barely had the possession advantage. They had a 51-49% possession advantage in the second half. And that was up 3 goals. So I still think it just says a lot more about Nashville. And sometimes you just have to hand it to Brian Schmetzer. I think this is a game where you do that. And then also Ryan Kent made his debut. And people think he's going to do pretty well, despite the fact that he looks like an Easter Island head. So I'm interested to see how he's going to add to this team. And I'm also very interested to see just like whether or not Danny Musovsky is suddenly undroppable, because I think he is. And that's not just because he misses more chances than he scores, because Jordan Morris does the same thing. But yeah, I think Danny Musovsky's playing pretty well right now, and that's pretty good for the Seattle Sounders because they need people to put ball in net.
Yeah, I will push back a little bit because they were without Jackson Reagan, so you kind of lose a little bit of the backline stability. Kim, I thought was, you know, comes in and kind of fills in reliably, but they're not going to be passing it about with Kim there, who did make his return to the Sounders. I don't know, he is mostly depth, so to not have to rely on John Bell entirely back on the back line should help the Sounders out. Otherwise, I think it's a different story. But
That's also assuming that John Bell just actually hasn't been very good with Seattle. I think he's been one of their more underrated players since he signed. I was kind of surprised he didn't get the start in this game.
yeah, that's where I was at. So even them keeping a clean sheet could be just I mean, Nashville's this is not Gary Ball Nashville. I thought Nashville would have had a better result here, but like you said, it does say more about them. We will get into them as we talk about them, but any other Seattle thoughts?
Yeah, I am very curious to hear Jeremy's thoughts on why this reflects more on Nashville later on. I think Nashville's a very good team. I think this is a very good win for Seattle because of that. Yeah, Nashville was without Zimmerman, and we all know they are a completely different team without him, but I still think this is a really good win for Seattle, and I'm happy for my boy, Jesus Fiera. 2 assists, man of the match, played a full 90. Good for that dude.
Let's move on to Chicago Fire and Cincinnati. I have OTB on this one, kind of trying to get everyone's thoughts on this matchup because, I mean, both teams are kind of injured. Both teams are not at their full strength, so it's kind of a good, test for both sides to kind of get a gauge on. For one, for Chicago, I think it's can we go blow for blow with the top teams, and for Cincinnati, it's more of is our depth as legit as it really is? And there's something scary about Cincinnati. I shat all over their backline issues. I think that's still going to be the one thing that bites them in the end. Is just how consistent their backline can be, but they've been missing Obina Nobodo, who I think is one of their best players. Doing fine without him. Played some games without Evander. Played well without him. Had some games without Denke. I mean, they benched Luca Orellano. Yuya Kubo has been injured, and they're still soaring, guys. They are now third in the Supporters Shield, standing second in the East. How are we feeling about Cincinnati? Anybody want to take a strong start here with Cincy? Maybe let's actually go with Joss, because Joss, I know you have plans to go to TQL. Is that correct?
I do. This weekend I'll be out watching. I'll be off to see the Wizards in Cincinnati as they take on Sporting Kansas City and Zavagnin Ball. But we're not talking about Zavagnin Ball. We're talking about Greg Ball.
Noonan.
Berhalter Ball.
Oh, well,
Noonan.
yeah.
Sorry, Noonan Ball. Well,
either or, Chicago or Cincy. You can talk about either one.
Okay. Well, firstly, I'll talk about Greg, and I wanted to issue an apology to Jonathan Bamba because I wasn't high on him signing for Chicago. And I was just taking a look at some of the statistics for MLS today, and Jonathan Bamba is actually leading the league in assists with 6.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I
that's
think
on
expected
me.
assists as well.
And expect. It's interesting. So that's on me. I'm sorry, Jonathan Bamba. I'm sorry, Greg Berhalter, and I'm sorry, Juanners, because Juanners, you were correct.
Don't disrespect Joe Bamba.
Jonathan
again.
Bamba was a good signing. I'm sorry. Beyond that, Kuipers chips in with another goal, and Brian Gutierrez, who I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts. How high are you guys on Brian Gutierrez as a player?
I'm not
One of the
that
best players
high
in the
on
league. That's awkward.
Okay.
I'm in the middle.
That's awkward.
I think he's fine, but I think there's just a lot of hype that comes with him because he is a potential U.S. men's national team player. I think he's one of those guys that needs a move to Europe, and for the Chicago Fire to actually bring in a true DP number 10 to make them better. But
like
I mean,
Nick Fury.
yeah, I also don't like his face, but I shouldn't I should just stop commenting on players and coaches' faces. But for Brian Gutierrez in particular, that's just something I can't get over. I don't know why.
Just in general.
Look,
Okay, interesting.
I am not a ratings merchant, but per the ratings, Brian Gutierrez is the 5th best player in the league behind Kai Wagner, Kristen Espinoza, and Lionel Messi. That's pretty good company. Behind him is Carl Gill and Jeppy, that dude from San Diego. I'm not trying to pronounce that last name right now.
Jeppy Sverskov.
Thank you. So,
There we go.
I mean, he passes the eye test when you watch him, and the metrics back him up. I don't think it's just hype. I think he's just a pretty good player.
I don't know if, for me, I think he is not the player he once was. And I think
because he's 21, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he has been being groomed for this position since Georgi Mihailovic left, right?
Yeah.
And what happened to Georgie? He left Chicago, went to Montreal, and had a career. I mean, here's what you do with Brian Gutierrez. You send him to Wilfred Nancy in Columbus, all right? And you let him build up a new, when Georgie was starting to, catch steam, it took him to leave Chicago to get that steam. Now he's at, Rapids. But, I mean, leaving Chicago, going to Montreal, and then earning a move to, I think it was Aja Alkmaar, is like a nice bit of, business. Even if it didn't work out for Georgie, still, he needed to make that move. And I kind of want to agree with Jeremy. I think they need to move on from him in some way where he can start to kind of spread his wings, get away from Chicago, because at times he's played as a left winger, at times he's played as a right winger, as the 10, now kind of more in this box-to-box role. I still don't think that midfield is set. You had Mauricio Pineda and Sergio Origel in midfield. I think if you had Kellen Acosta and Romanige Kouame in there, you'll have, the true Chicago midfield. And then you can say, well, maybe they don't need Gutierrez, right? Maybe they could just get in a more defensive guy like Pineda. But I mean, it's a good conundrum to have, because I still think Gutierrez is a lot better than most MLS midfielders, especially domestic ones. But what do you guys feel about that? I don't know. Would you? I mean. Let me ask you this: Luca De La Torre or Brian Gutierrez?
Right now?
Luca De La Torre.
Right now, Brian Gutierrez.
I'm on Luca De La Torre.
I'm on Brian Gutierrez. So that's kind of where it kind of shakes out. Those are two different types of players, but, it's not, I mean, they're pretty similar in their role, and that's just midfield, playmaker. One is more of an engine, another one is a bit less selfless, but I'm interested either way, because I love Gutierrez.
Yeah, I was just curious. Just curious about, because it seems like he is sort of a polarizing player. When I listened to the wraparound show where they talk and they give their thoughts. Brian Gutierrez brought up a similar debate to the one that we just had. This was probably a month ago or something like that, where some people were like, oh yeah, this is like, he is the future Chicago's midfield, and he's going to be that 10 that they need, and he's going to provide everything. And then there was also some talk about him being underperforming. So, I mean, he obviously got a goal this game, but, he also lost the most duels in the game. That's kind of Brian Gutierrez for me right now. But yeah, 3-2 loss in Cincinnati, in Chicago, which, it's never fun to lose at home. But the Chicago team is still experiencing a massive turnaround. and they're outperforming my metrics so far. So yeah, that's what I think about Chicago so far.
Yeah, still no home win for them. So it's kind of
Tough.
kind of tough for them at least. But on the road they're still very fun. Any other thoughts on Chicago? What about Cincinnati? Because I know I opened up with Cincy, but what
I'm
do you
so
make?
ready for Cincinnati thoughts because I am here only to talk about Evander's expected goals. So Evander scored 2 goals in this game. He has 5 goals in his past 3 games. Very good. Very good. That's what he does. He scores a lot of goals. He has 6 goals in MLS this year from a total of 1.18 xG.
Oh my god.
Is he that good of a finisher? Well, I mean, I've watched him for 2 years when he was in Portland. I can say, yeah, he's the type of guy who can do that. But then I watch the goals that he's scoring,
Deflections.
and I thank you. Correct. This man is picking up every single deflection you can you can see. And I think he's also benefiting from just some terrible goalkeeping because although he has 1.18 expected goals, his expected goals on target is 2.39. And he's vastly outperforming that. In this game, he scored from a deflection on a fast break. This was Cincinnati's third goal, I believe. Where he's on the side, he's on the right side of the box and he shoots it in from a tough angle and it gets deflected in. 0.06 xG, 0.09 expected goals on target.
Wait,
Wow.
are you publicly declaring Evander a tap-in merchant?
I'm declaring him a deflection merchant, actually,
Are you?
because the first goal too, which I mean, there's a refereeing error on it. He takes another wicked deflection that takes it up and over Chris Brady's head. 0.05 xg, 0.21 xg on target. So I think once the deflections start to settle down, is Evander going to keep scoring at this rapid rate that he currently is? I don't know. I don't know if Cincinnati is a better team with him or without him still, too. That's not me being a prick. That's me asking important questions, questioning things. Because that's what I'm supposed to do as a reporter. I'm supposed to be like, is this for real or is this for fake? And normally, if I see an expected goals over performance to this level, I'm thinking this is going to come back down to earth. When I watch these goals too, I'm like, this is definitely coming back down to earth. Not to take away from his excellent start in a Cincinnati jersey, but I don't know, guys. Is it sustainable?
I you asked this about the Rapids this year about their PK if that's sustainable, and I said no. But then they're getting PKs now, so until otherwise proven, I think this is just going to be the Evander mo. My main thing is, I mean, are we about to start the he can't keep getting away with this? I know you say the Sounders as a whole can't keep getting away with this, but for Evander, can he just keep getting away with this? I mean, he did want to leave Portland, right? And he got his wish. He can't get away with this, and yet he moved, and then he's scoring, these pull-up shots that are from far out, and he's just, I mean, he kind of reminds me of Pasalic, but Pasalic hasn't gotten the lucky streak that Evander has had, where Evander will just pull up from further. So I mean,
Yeah.
shoot or shoot. You got to shoot your shot until otherwise proven.
And that's where it also comes into play for me because like in order to get those deflections, in order to score goals, you still like have to shoot. Even if what happens after the ball leaves your foot is completely out of your control and it's actually benefiting you and allowing you to post like 30-page Instagram stories because everyone congratulates you for scoring goals, which he does. He does. He did it after that Philadelphia game where they lost 4-1. He goes on Instagram and posts like 30 different stories about him scoring a goal.
You're not bitter
Yeah,
at all.
I think just being able to shoot, like right now he has 23 shots in the league. He's missed a couple of games. He's only played 7 matches. That's about like 3.83 shots per 90, Which if I look at Kevin Denke, who has played quite a few games, Denke only has 18 shots.
Yeah, they're not
That's
playing.
wild.
They're not going to him as much.
They aren't, and like I'd rather if I'm Pat Noonan, I'm thinking like this Togolese guy, he cost a record fee until Atlanta broke it. Like, well, we need to get him more involved. We need to get him on the end of this because Evander, by the way, like he may be vastly overperforming his XG. He's underperforming his expected assists by about like 1.55 at least per the stats that I'm looking at. So I think turning some of those hypothetical assists into assists is better for the Cincinnati team than him just scoring goals, which is kind of insane to say. But I mean that's what happened. And then also in this game, we talked about like penalty controversy. Oh wait, no, Denke scored from open play. I thought it was a penalty. I don't know why I memory hold it like that. But also Denke got a yellow card because he lifted his shirt over his head, which is a yellow card. I don't care how nice the gesture is. That is a yellow card. You can't remove the shirt over your head and get and not escape punishment for that. So yeah. I mean Cincinnati they won this game ugly, but they did pretty well. And I think those Evander goal scoring numbers are gonna kind of fall off a cliff. But it won't matter if he starts providing for the actual centerpiece of the Cincinnati attack, which is Kevin Denke.
It sounds like you're just bitter.
I'm not bitter. I'm such a lovely guy.
Jeremy,
Yes.
you had Cincinnati picked to be your Shield winner preseason. Are you feeling good about that prediction 9 games in?
Yeah, I am feeling good about that prediction. That's one of the reasons why I wouldn't say that I'm being bitter. I'm just
There
merely
it
looking
is.
at the numbers and seeing what they lead me to. But yeah, I feel like once Miazga fully gets back to full health, that defense is going to be shored up quite a bit, and it's why I'm not like too concerned for them in the long run. But yeah, and they're still finding ways to get results. Like over the past couple of weeks, FC Cincinnati, who are third in the Shield right now, by the way, 1 point behind the Vancouver Whitecaps. Um, they've won 4 straight games. All of them have been by 1 goal. That's exactly what they did in 2023 when they won the Shield. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is business as usual for them.
Yeah, and they're gonna get better. Miazga getting some minutes back in. Yuga Kubo is not with the team, but he's an amazing utility piece. Nwobodo wasn't even in. Once he gets back, this team is just you're never gonna play through them again. Any other closing thoughts on Cincinnati or Chicago? We'll open it up to Joss and Daniel. If not, we'll move on. But
None from me.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I think Jeremy hit a lot of the points.
let's talk about
Can
Orlando.
I just add one more, like
Yeah.
really quick one? Now that we brought up like the Shield race, Cincinnati's run-in at the end of the season, they have a vast majority of home games too. So even if they aren't like fully clicking by like mid-July and they might be a few points back or whatever, like their end of the season could still be a springboard, especially if the top of this league continues to be as congested as it is.
Yeah, and one of those teams that you kind of have to look out for that kind of congest the East is Orlando City. Though recently they have not been a fun watch. They are now officially 3 games with a 0-0, and I think it's in each of their 3 games they've had red cards. So it's kind of just been difficult really to assess Orlando so far, but since that Philly game, it was kind of like, dang. Well, they beat LA Galaxy on the road, which was shout out to them because that's a hard match, long miles, right? And then afterwards, they kind of we thought we were gonna get a crazy match between Philly and Orlando, 0-0, right? And this one didn't have any red cards in it, but it was like, wow, Orlando is like. They showed some defense here, right? They continue to show some defense against the Red Bulls, this time a red card. and they were kind of forced to play defensively. And then again against Montreal, this time a red card in the 76th minute as instead of the 56th minute. So they were kind of closing out the games, but between Pasalic, Muriel, Ojeda, Angulo, who's always just kind of been the last piece there, like none of these guys are cooking right now. And I wonder where you can. I mean, a lot of it is due to the red cards, right? They've been shooting themselves in the foot. But I mean, against Philly, I thought they would have scored one. New York Red Bulls at home, especially given how the New York has been playing, and then Montreal, like gave you plenty of reasons there for you to kind of spoil them, and to some degree they did. But man, Orlando has not been a fun watch recently. Anybody have any thoughts about Orlando before we move on? Any questions too? I don't know what else to say besides it's just a rough watch right now. Yeah, that kind of that says everything about Orlando. What's tough is that's I give Josh the 1-0, and he sends me death threats. Meanwhile, I had to watch two of them. This week. So, and of the 0-0s, this one was probably the worst one, outside of Montreal. Watching them spin their wheels a little bit, but let's move on.
I didn't know you were gonna talk about my DMs to you, Juan.
Y'all should see the shit that I get hurled with on a daily basis. No. Beyond that, I mean, what else is there to say, really? Orlando's just in a rut, and I mean, they're keeping the defense up. Gallese having a great season, but it's gonna, just like Miami, the shoe's gonna drop for them, I think.
Has the shoe already dropped though? That's the question that I have, which is weird after 3 straight clean sheets. But if you can't score goals, you're not going to be able to win games. And I don't know how convinced I am about. I mean, that Philadelphia clean sheet is still relatively impressive. I'll say that, but a clean sheet against the Red Bulls and then a clean sheet against Montreal, I don't know how much that really moves me. But I do like Alex Freeman. I do like myself big Alex Freeman. Big fullbacks are very fun.
And that was Dagger Thorhalsen's position, and I thought he is one of the more solid right backs. So to see him kind of dropped, he's been playing more minutes now as the holding midfielder, but that was kind of a testament to Freeman. Freeman dropped one of the better players on Orlando because he's just that good. But yeah, with no other Orlando thoughts, let's talk about LAFC. They traveled to Portland Timbers, and it's very funny that we get to make fun of Jeremy here. His team is the first team to concede a MLS goal to Oliver Giroud, who scored off a free kick. And then Martinez punished them in the second half, and then Buanga was brutally attacked in the penalty box. He was mauled, honestly. Jeremy, let's go to you, man. What'd you make of LAFC? I know you really liked their performance here tonight.
Okay, so here's the thing that I have with LAFC, and most of it's just what I believe Cherundolo making cowardly decisions with this team by not playing a 4-3-3 and not using the ball like they can, because they are I'd say they're one of the faces of the league, and they can go out and get however much talent that they can go get. You never want LAFC to be playing against the ball and set up to play against the ball. And they were not set up to play against the ball in this game, and they were actually entertaining to watch, unlike most of their games this year. So I would like to shout out Igor Jesus, who I don't really think put a foot wrong, especially in possession. You have him, play possession football, for God's sake. Hopefully this is something to this is something that Cherundolo is actually going to remember if he still isn't pissed off about that red card that he got, which I don't know how justified that was, and I will also refrain from speaking about it for now, because blaming officiating is something that I like to write about and not something I like to talk about. but this is a Denny Bouanga game in the highest sense of the word. He has 2 goals offside, wiped out for offside in the first half, some of which you
Classic.
can make the chance were maybe not offside, but also as someone from personal experience, where the press box is in Providence Park, I always have a pretty good view of where those offsides are, and given how the broadcast angles in Providence Park always infuriate me because you can never really tell definitively whether or not a player is on or offside. Like, I think the referees got those calls right. Even though, like, yeah, called my bias into question, but no, I mean, I want to see a clean, fair game, and I want to see like calls go both ways, whether they benefit the Timbers or they go against them. Like Anthony potentially getting sent off last week for stepping on Sulaimanov's foot in Kansas City. I think that probably should have been a red card. But you know what?
True.
Yeah,
True. True for
I
you.
guess we'll take that. So it didn't matter anyway. Timbers won 4-2. So yeah. But so
I don't like
Buanga
this truth nuke.
though. Buanga. Um he wins that penalty at least 5 times a year, every single time. And it infuriates me because I think that magic is illegal. Back in the 1500s, you would get executed for performing witchcraft. And in this case, he is performing illusions of the highest order. Now, I think the death penalty might be a little harsh. I think we've progressed as a society in those 500 years since people were getting killed for sorcery. But yeah, every single time he gets to the end line and he cuts it inside ever so slightly against any defender in the box, you know that he's looking for every single bit of contact. And when that contact does come, because it will come, because his gift as a player is his ridiculous agility combined with his speed and his skill on the ball, which just sets up these penalty scenarios so perfectly. So when he feels that contact, he creates the illusion that it's always enough to take him down. And every single referee in the league buys it. Every single time. Because they see the contact and they're not just like, oh, that's like negligible. They're like, he must have been able to go down from this contact. I've never seen anything like it. He's a master of illusions. I wrote about this game. I put a big old picture of Joe Bluth in to like reference Denny Bouanga as the master of illusions. Because you know, in his mind, when he's going down to the ground, Final Countdown is playing in his head. Which, like, I don't believe that MLS refs, after seeing this guy for going on what year is this? This is about to be his 3rd full season in the league, counting the half season he had in 2022. You know what he's gonna do. You know he's always looking for that contact. How hard is it to properly officiate this guy? But yeah, really quickly, the last point I'm gonna make is the Timbers, of course, being the team to concede to Olivier Giroud for the first time in MLS play. I'm not even mad about it. It's a really good free kick.
That it is.
And I think it would have been a lot dumber if it was just like some really stupid open play goal where they get gashed in transition. But I mean, it's Olivier Giroud. He's liability in transition unless he's like actually progressing the ball, which is not what you want from your striker in that in those scenarios. But I digress. Um yeah, I think this is I think it was just a really entertaining game more than anything. And LAFC showed that like when they actually decide to play with the ball, they're really fun to watch.
Yeah, all's not as lost. In the middle of their CCC midweek rotations. Like I always felt that of LAFC and Seattle, LAFC were going to be just fine. Seattle's starting to regress now, or not regress, but they're starting to like figure it out after that CCC split. So LAFC firmly out of it. It's kind of want to see more of that. Even if it does mean that they're figuring out still between Martinez, Under. I mean, Bobasi is back from injury. I don't know if interesting question marks across that front 3 there, and we may get answers for it now that we're clearly, like now that we're in a regular MLS regular season schedule, let's head on to Nashville, sticking with Jeremy, because we talked a bit about Seattle and how this was a more of a match that showed a lot about Nashville than it did about Seattle. Tell us more about that statement and what you made about Nashville's performance here on the road. A big cross country trek from Nashville to Seattle.
Everyone's going to be talking about how Walker Zimmerman is hurt for this game, and like I think that's fairly obvious that they're not going to be as good without like the only center back in this league who's actually worth his DP contract. But I think the most glaring omission from this Nashville starting 11, and the one that I'm kind of confused that BJ Callahan made, was dropping Eddie Tagseth.
Yep.
Because he has been the engine room for this Nashville team. And I think it's a huge vote of like, I don't know what vote of confidence or whatever. I don't think it's a vote of confidence, but like kind of like some word that's similar to that for Patrick Yazbek. But I don't think Yazbek was that good. And in a game like this against Seattle, who are second ball monsters and who have two of the best ground covering midfielders in the league in Obed Vargas and Christian Roldan, and an entire team that works really hard out of possession, you need Tagseth in this game. And I don't know why Callahan, like, yeah, it's a fairly long road trip, but I think this was a winnable game for Nashville before the starting lineups were announced. And I don't know why you're going to leave. Yeah, I don't know why you're going to leave probably this is going to be controversial. Your best player on the roster who's available in Tagseth out. It made no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's Tagseth, Luciano Acosta, Keaton Parks. Like, we're going to start building an 11 of dropped players that, didn't see the light of day. Tim Labeled, Robert Voladair. Who else are
True.
Morris Duggan.
Real champions of the game.
I'm kidding on those last few, obviously. Would suck to have those guys on the bench, am I right? But I agree. Nashville, for me, I was like, I don't get, even without Walker, it was like, man, Yazbek instead of Tagseth. That one made no sense to me. Joss and Daniel, you guys have any thoughts on Nashville or LA? I also glossed over LA, but any thoughts on those guys?
Not particularly for me. Josh, you anything?
No, not Nashville. They're not a very inspiring performance, obviously. But BJ Ball is BJ Ball will BJ Ball, I think. And I feel like in a maybe under Gary Smith, this is probably a 1-1 or something like that. But I think overall, the feeling is that BJ is doing a better job, and at least he's more watchable than Gary Smith was, especially near the end of his tenure. So
this is one you just take on the chin, honestly. But it sucks that it's a Seattle revamp. So I'm like, don't take it on the chin, Nashville. Fucking do something, like stand up for yourself. Let's move on to San Diego, who traveled to Charlotte. I have a lot to say about San Diego. They lost on the road against the Rapids, lost on the road against Charlotte. I have to kind of tear down the San Diego lineup because, I mean, if you thought you were going to compete with Charlotte with a very defensive midfield of Alvarado Jr., Tverskov, and then Valakari, who's not playing as a striker, mind you, he's playing more in midfield. He's not a target to play through. Thomas Angel played there. But, man, last week, San Diego said, we can compete, even if we're off a little bit. I think they had an off night against Colorado, but against Charlotte, they proved, we may have some ass tendencies here and there. Daniel, what'd you make of San Diego on this one, man? I know the red card also kind of affects it a little bit, but tell me, what'd you make of San Diego?
Look, the alarm bells are not ringing yet for San Diego. Yeah, the Austin FC loss was tough. The Colorado loss, I mean, Colorado's pretty good. You can't really fault them for that. And then Charlotte's very good, but things really unraveled when Reyes got that red card in the 40th minute. Um, Kind of changed the entire game, honestly. Not that they were playing superb up until then, but I mean, that's always going to hurt. The biggest question mark for me is Thomas Angel. Sorry, Thomas Angel has
Anal.
been really. Yeah, Thomas Angel has been really bad all year. I don't know what they were thinking starting him up top in a game that, yeah, it doesn't directly affect you in the West, but it's still a game that, I mean, San Diego's been the kind of team where we really wouldn't be surprising if at this point they seem like a playoff team, right? And I mean, you should want to test yourself against these better teams in the East to see, hey, what do we need to do to get to the big game? And starting Thomas Ain, oh my God, I'm gonna keep saying it now because I messed up once.
On
I'm
hell.
gonna call him Thomas Angel on hell. Thomas on hell. Starting him up top, that was a little head scratcher when you got Valakari playing in the midfield. Like, what are we doing here? They're trying to play 3D chess at this point when this is a checkers league, man. Just play checkers.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, McVay played as the left back, and you had, I mean, you could have had a guy in Luca Bombino who gives you a little bit of verticality. Willie Kumado, another guy you can load in over the top. Um, no Annabelle Godoy, no Luca De La Torre. Uh, it
Which
was
is absolute head scratchers. Two of their
yeah.
best players all year. Just
What
okay.
is it with teams dropping their best players, man? It makes no sense. Uh,
Literally no sense.
Jeremy, you got something?
Can I give a little Andres Reyes tribute really quickly?
Sure.
Okay. This was his first game since being dropped from the MLS Cup lineup last year, and he celebrated it in only the way that Andres Reyes can, getting sent off. So I, I saw that he was in the starting lineup, and I was like, he's gonna get a red card today, isn't he? And then he does, because he's just. And the crazy part about this is I can't remember where I was hearing it. What it was either on MLS 360 or on the pregame show where they were talking about how good he is as a transition eraser. And I'm just like, is he a great transition eraser? He's a walking red card because of all the nonsense he does during transitions. Like, oh my God. So, congratulations to Andres Reyes for returning to the pitch in only the way that he could, getting sent off.
Any closing thoughts on San Diego, Daniel?
No.
Moving on, Colorado went to Houston, almost escaped with all three until a Andrej Linger goal in the 96th minute got them back. This is another instance where the Rapids concede right before the half ends. It's getting very annoying. I'll talk about that more on Burgundy Banter. For now, we'll move ahead of the Rapids, and we'll talk about, wasn't too long ago we talked about LAFC. Let's talk about their opponent, Portland Timbers, starting off with Jeremy, of course, the Timbers maestro. Good to see Jonathan Rodriguez slowly kind of getting, fitness and getting some minutes back. He is still like, I will say this because I'm a Cruz Azul fan. When he was playing for Cruz Azul, he was easily one of my favorite players. Went to Al Nassr and then Club America, kind of soured on him there. But, I mean, Jonathan Rodriguez is a fucking player. And I am so excited to see him back on the pitch. He got an assist in this one. Jeremy, what did you make of the Timbers and of this match so far? And I know it's a 3-3, but I still think, it was an overall up until the end, really, a good result against the LAFC team, that are now focused on the league.
I'm not going to talk about the referees. I've talked about that already on a podcast I recorded. That's Timbers focused yesterday. And I'm going to talk about them again on another Timbers focused podcast I'm going to record later this week. So I don't think I need to do that here. What I am going to talk about is I am going to go off that Jonathan Rodriguez point because he replaced Anthony, who was subbed off at halftime with a knock. And for 45 minutes, Anthony continued being just a bundle of terror for both Timbers fans and LAFC defenders alike. Because I think Anthony is the player with one of the highest ceilings in this league. I can
Okay.
see him genuinely as a Buwanga type just because of how hard he works on and off the ball.
He's a
The
monster.
problem is he just doesn't really have a bag. And as a winger, you kind of want to be able to have a bag. You can't just run everywhere. And sometimes things work like that, like on on Portland's second goal, where a through ball from Felipe Mora puts Anthony into that space where he first of all puts Aaron Long down, has Aaron Long whine for a call that he's never going to get, and just finds a way to play a beautiful chipped pass with his weak foot, mind you, into Santiago Moreno, who actually takes one too many touches that end up working out for him inside the box,
I agree.
which is a rarity, and scores his first goal. But yeah, so Rodriguez being able to replace Anthony and still provide that kind of direct threat and his ability to win headers on the wing, I think that's his best quality. I think that's the one thing that puts him above every single winger in this league, because it's not just the goal scoring, it's not just the ball striking, it's just his ability to be an aerial threat
His
and
presence,
be
really.
there at the far post. Yeah, he's incredible, and he also just does not want to talk to media ever, which his game kind of speaks for itself. But you want to know what he thinks about, like, just the way he plays and stuff like that, but he doesn't want to talk to anybody, so I have to respect him for that. He keeps to himself and he wants to win games of soccer. So good for him. Felipe Mora, another excellent outing. That is his second brace in 4 games.
No hat tricks.
And yeah, I don't know. Actually, no way, he didn't get a brace against Houston. I kind of memory hold that. But I'm very much on board with Felipe Mora just doing all of the dirty work that a forward should be able to do, while also being always in the right spot at the end to get on the end of crosses, or in this case headers across the face of goal from Jonathan Rodriguez. Finn Sermon, by the way, leads MLS in clearances, mostly because Morris Duggan hasn't been starting any games as of late. um I think Finn Sermon, who's going to play for New Zealand in the World Cup next year, that's a potential like Premier League level defender. And I feel like it's kind of insane to say that, but when
It
you have
is.
a guy who's running down Denny Buwanga in the open field, like, you can't teach speed as a center back. And that's one of the things that's making me say, like, wow, this guy's ceiling is bigger than what I initially thought. More than just his eraser qualities, it's just the fact that he's able to catch up to a Denny Buwanga in the first half after 25 minutes, and Buwanga just kept terrorizing the Timbers back line for most of this game with that speed. So I think that's a huge net positive. Also a huge net positive, James Pantemis, for firmly ripping the starting keeper job away from Maxime Crepeau. That's something that I'm sure none of y'all saw coming, but a lot of Timbers fans last year did. And the Timbers have a tradition of their backups taking over the starting job and outperforming the starters. So, I mean, this is par for the course at this point. But it is really frustrating to drop points in this game. It really is. Because the Timbers, as of right now, are 6 unbeaten. They just conceded in this game their first open play goal in 5 matches. So there's still a lot to like about the Timbers. And the question isn't like, have they reached their ceiling? It's like, how good is this team going to be at their ceiling? Are they going to be like a serious contender? Are they going to play like a contender? Or are they going to kind of just be a little bit of false gold because their underlying numbers are dog shit? We don't know yet, but it's going to be fun to watch that journey.
I think this is their ceiling. But that's only just
That's
to
mean.
I know. That's only to be mean. I think I don't know how I mean, because here's the one thing about the Timbers is their defense is young. It's impressive, but I can't help but feel that that's gonna bite them in the ass later down the stretch. You know what I mean? Not that the inexperience is anything that's gonna be. I mean, 3-3 is rough, especially on the questionable call at the end there. But I still think that there's times where this team, it's like the defense is like it needs to show up consistently. It has on the road. Now it just needs to manifest itself at home really. Because I mean when
I
this
think they
team-
should stop giving away penalties more than anything. They've given away 5 penalties this year. It's the most in the league.
none of the Rapids, and that's our bread and butter. So, let's. You mentioned Morris Duggan. Let's go to him. Minnesota United going over to Joss, sticking on the 0-0. Both teams are teams that are just allergic to the ball, right? And Minnesota firmly do not want it. To their kind of detriment, because I don't know why the fact that you have Laud and Joaquin Pereira, you wouldn't want to do a little bit on the ball. But what can you tell us about Minnesota here against Dallas? I know you talked
That's actually
a bit, but
that's a great segue, Juan, because there's a quote from the Minnesota United reporter that's basically saying, like, if Yeboah, Laud, and Pereira don't show up, what is this Minnesota team? And that's what we saw against Dallas.
really,
It's a team allergic to the yeah.
Okay.
It's a team allergic to the ball. It's a team allergic to creating chances. I mean, the best chance fell to Olasei, and with the season he's been having so far, you kind of expect him to convert, but it was like a 2-yard. It was a hard cross in from Carlos Harvey. So I'm going to give Olasei benefit of the doubt here because it's a hard chance to finish, but you need that to convert if your other players are not firing. And that's what we got with this Minnesota team. This is a kind of game where I worry about Minnesota because they need to have more than one style of play. This style of play works against the LA team, the Galaxy, LAFC, or Sporting KC, or teams that possess the ball and possess it well, and Minnesota can break. But if you're playing a team that's playing anti-soccer and matching your style, Minnesota has the players to change their play style and be more progressive on the ball. But they didn't do it, and we ended up with a 0-0. And that's what I think the major problem for this Minnesota team is they're too stuck on their one style, and Eric Ramsey is not an experienced enough coach to make the calls to change their play style when it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, like even their subs, right? Shashua has been just below mid, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jung Ho Yan and Jung Sangbin. We haven't seen Jung as much, Jung Ho, but he is, supposed to be this, fun, dynamic player. I do like Loic Mesanvi as well as like as an option to play. Instead of Rosales, who gives you solid, defense, but if you are looking for someone to stretch the field, I don't know why you don't go with more winger guy like Loic Mesanvi. I also like that name, and I think he's also from Togo. Yes, so he's another Tongan in the league. Him and Danke share that nationality, but yeah, Minnesota, man. I think Yeboah and Olawasei, the commentators keep saying that they're both kind of gelling. I don't see either of them really working off each other that well. And I think of the two, you got I don't know how long you can keep these two as the starters. Yeboah's starting to get into a dry spell. Olawasei obviously didn't miss that chance, but overall it's like one of these guys is like gotta be the guy. I don't know how long you can have both of them as the 9. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I don't know if anyone else wants to speak about Minnesota. What do you guys think?
I can see them moving into a 4-2-3-1 model with Load acting as the 8, Pereira as the 10, Huangwane back on the wing, and one of Yaboa or Oluwaseyi starting up top. And I think it would make them a little bit better on the ball, putting those players in positions for them to succeed. Whoever starts at left wing will be interesting. No idea who that could be, but probably Sangbin John. But I'm I still pick Minnesota to finish top of the West. I think they are very high floor. And I still haven't seen anything to really change that, mostly just because how good they are at playing defensively. But man, it's becoming a chore to watch a team with this much talent constantly try and play against the ball. And after I've slandered Austin for doing that so much this year, I feel like the time is coming for Minnesota. Now, I'm also going to take a look at their upcoming schedule because this is where they really need to prove their contender status coming up. They're going to play Vancouver this weekend. They have a home game for that. You cannot come out and play against the ball at home against Vancouver. You can come out and try and play against the ball against Austin next week though. Maybe you get back to how you want to play. But then you host Miami and it will be in your home stadium. It won't be at US Bank because you actually get a home game for this. So use your home environment, use the wonder wall, try and instill a little bit more possession principles over the next like couple of weeks because we're getting close to putting Minnesota on fraud watch. As in like
Ooh.
contender fraud watch. Not as in like
Ooh.
they're a bad team, not the same fraud watch that RSL has, but they're certainly on the like I'm starting to get worried about them
4D fraud
list for
watch.
myself.
Any other thoughts on Minnesota before we move on, fellas? Let's move on.
I think.
Oh,
Hang on. I'm trying to formulate this thought because my opinions on them are very different. I don't think they're on fraud watch by any means. I think how they play is incredibly consistent. And if they play a team that stylistically matches up well to them and they can still get draws, I think that's a good problem to have. I mean, they are going to create matchup problems with how they play. Yes, it's very chaotic. Yes, it's very against the ball. Yes, they have a ton of talent. That's why they're able to make it work. So I think Minnesota's fine. I think if they pull off a win against Vancouver this week, I mean, they're right back to the same opinions we thought about them 2 weeks ago. Just a very good team in a not as challenging side of the bracket. So I think Minnesota's going to be fine.
yeah. I mean, I think none of us see them dropping out of the top 6, top 5, top. They're not gonna miss the playoffs. I don't think, right? So that's a really. I mean, that's what we talk about when we talk about floor. It's just where is that floor at the end? Because if you're a team that can play with the ball dynamically and you can, hold the ball well and find. I mean, it doesn't even have to be open play. I mean, if you can, get your guys on set pieces, get those, chances, find some possession, holding the ball that way. That's a way you can play as well. They just need something different than, their strikers are gonna run onto through balls and cause problems, which they can. But if you're gonna welcome Miami in, it's gonna be a tough day. Let's talk about Austin, who who dropped Bukhari. Funny, we talk about teams dropping some of their better players, but the argument could be made that Bukhari is now a super sub merchant. I don't know if we want to start going there, but Austin attacked. They had a penalty chance for Vasquez, and my biggest reaction here is supporter groups really need to stop supporting when there's a penalty. They need to stop waving their flags around because that was my first thought as he stepped up to the penalty spot is he is going to miss, he is going to miss, he is going to miss, he is going to miss. or some variation of that. McCarthy made the save. It didn't matter in the end. Austin stole a goal, 1-0, finish out the match. But man, this was a mid-off. I don't know what to say other than that. I mean, Austin picked up a win against a team that's just been languishing, and the Galaxy never threatened Austin. Never get out of second gear. Just a mid-off for me. Jeremy, what did you make of this one in Austin?
I think they're finally learning how to play with the ball a bit, and I really like that because I've told them, I've just been screaming from the heavens about how cowardly they've been all season, and I think it's really good for them to have an outing like this and finally be able to get that breakthrough so late through Vasquez, because they dominated this game in terms of just the quality of these chances that they created. And even though a penalty results in a lot of potential XG, and Vasquez's eventual winner, it has an XG value of 0.88, which is even higher than the penalty. I think that they're finally getting to what they want to be. And I questioned whether Estevez wanted them to be playing like this. But now I kind of see the vision. I think it's really funny that Brendan Hines Ike gets a red card at the end of this game, a second yellow. I think it's ridiculous that someone who's the club captain is just getting dumb fouls at the end of this game. But they are in with a chance as long as they have Brad Stuver, and I delighted in their absolute whooping last weekend at the hands of the Vancouver Whitecaps, where they allowed Brian White to score not one, not two, not three, but 4 goals. So this was a bounce back performance they desperately needed. And also, everyone on this panel can pat themselves on the back because there is no standalone Austin game on the schedule until September 7th. We have made it out of the hell zone. We are no longer forced to watch this team whenever there is a Major League Soccer game on. We've surpassed it. And now, ironically, they're coming out of this window of constant standalone games with a performance that they should be proud of and actually a sign for what they could be when they spent so much money this offseason on Uzuni and Vasquez. So I still think at number 10 is the missing piece. I still think they really need to install Owen Wolf there, at least for now, and see what he can do in that role. But other than that, like, they needed to win this game. It would have been really funny if they had lost or drawn it. But hey, they took care of business, and that's what they got to do. And this was firmly a deserved result for them.
Nah, meh. Deserved, sure, but if anyone's gonna be on fraud watch, it's Austin before Minnesota. I think I want to say that.
I feel like Austin's just like genuinely on fraud watch though. Like,
Just
we know they're not
perpetually?
very good. Yeah, we know they're not very good, and we've known that that this start is fraudulent. They're second in the West right now,
Exactly.
but they are 4 points away from 8th place. That's just the Western Conference. Every single team in I'd say like this top 4 in the West, aside from Vancouver, has various levels of fraud watch to them. And that's why I'm not like, Austin's fraud watch is not the same as Minnesota's or RSL's. It's just like they're going to be able to get results because Brad Stuver's in net, and they'll be able to convert like one of the good chances that they create in a game.
I hate
But
that
the
you're
question
right about
is,
it. I hate that you're so right about
yeah,
it. Because I mean,
they're
I hate watching them play too. But
I know I'm so happy that I'm not going to be forced to be subjected to them until September, whenever, like, as the only MLS game on. Oh, that's bringing me joy though.
we talked about Philly, talked about Columbus, Miami, Cincinnati, going all the way to Charlotte now. Daniel, big 3-0 win for Charlotte at home. Immediate thoughts here. We talked a bit about San Diego. They kind of came out a bit more flat than you would have hoped. I mean, once the 11s dropped and I saw that much change from San Diego, and I saw, Mr. Thomas Anal in the game, I knew you kind of, I don't know, maybe as a fan you might have felt differently, but that San Diego lineup, I kind of knew this is Charlotte's to just, come out, show out. Zaha back in the lineup. You got some backline switch up. Scardina in for Nathan Byrne. What can you tell us about this matchup? Big 3-0 win. One of the best home teams, really, Charlotte.
Yeah, definitely one of the best home teams in the league. First, I just want to say it's really lonely.
The best home team.
It is really lonely at the top, guys. I need you guys to pick it up a little bit. I'm really happy for Patrick Adjumane. I'm really happy for Liala Abada. We all know Pep Beal's been on a whole nother level as a non-DP player all year. I really like how well Westwood controls the midfield, even in his older age. And having Zaha back just gives you so many options. If Abada is going to be a little bit more clinical and Patrick Adjumane is going to gain some confidence back, then, man, this team could be very, very dangerous. I'm very happy that when Suleiman Doumbia doesn't play his best, we can just replace him with Tim Ream. Like, what a luxury is that? And I'm really happy for Scardina because we didn't really know what he was going to offer this game, and he kind of held his own. He actually played really, really well. So just overall, a good performance against a lineup you should expect to beat at home that just traveled. I mean, it's a 6-hour flight from Charlotte. So what I will say is I don't know. That's the good. The bad, because you're going to come up with something bad, is I really don't know how good this team is quite yet. Drawing Seattle at Seattle, I was really, really confident. I was like, okay, Seattle's supposed to be really good this year. That's a decent draw, especially with how that draw happened. Still hilarious. Beating Atlanta,
Yes,
that seemed like it was going to be like a great win. Atlanta sucks. Losing to Inter Miami when Inter Miami was down a man almost the entire game sucks, but is what it is. It's Inter Miami. Beating Cincy was big. Beating San Jose felt big at the time, but doesn't
No,
really
you know
seem so
what?
big anymore.
No, I'm gonna stop this because, I mean, you look at the losses, right? The losses, the loss against Miami, that was kind of fraudulent. The Rapids one, I think Jeremy put it best. The Charlotte didn't respect Colorado's altitude. Beyond that, I mean, Charlotte on a 3-game winning streak, and they've
Look,
only conceded a 4 in the last 5.
they have a real test coming up in May because they play Columbus twice. We're going to find out how good they are in May. But they are one of the only teams, expansion teams, that have a winning record against Columbus. They have a winning record against Nashville. They have a losing record against Orlando. They have a winning record against Chicago, and they have a losing record against New England, who they play next week. So, I mean, the month of May and this backstretch of April here, I mean, if they can get a win against New England, which on paper should be a pretty easy win, and then they can go off and get one of these wins against Columbus and then take care of business against Nashville again and beat an Orlando side that doesn't look very good. I mean, then I'll say this Charlotte team is legit. And they need to be legit because I have a bet against an RSL fan, and if I lose, I have to buy him a kit, and I don't want to do that. So
yeah, that's significant financial investment to buy a kit.
yeah, in
Can I
this
say two
economy,
quick? Yeah. Can I say 2 quick things about Charlotte really quickly? First of all, that winning record against Columbus, part of that is due to the replacement refs. Asterisk. Second of all, there is a stretch that does worry me. It's coming up from May 28th to June 28th. It's a straight month of them being on the road for 5 straight games. I'm worried about that. I would
yeah,
be
but
worried
very
about that.
winnable games.
It's still very winnable games, but it is MLS, and nothing can be taken for granted on the road in this league. So yes, even you have Toronto in there, who's going to be in the middle of their home stretch, just their long run of home games. You're going to have the Red Bulls in there. You have Philadelphia, who I don't think I'm not convinced that's going to be incredibly winnable. You have SKC, who are SKC. That's actually fun. Wow. I think that game's actually going to be like kind of a banger. Now that I look at it, June 25th on a Wednesday too. Ooh, that could be like 4-4 or something like that. Uh, and, and then
0-0.
closing it up against Chicago. Like even though those games seem winnable, like in theory, Colorado could have been winnable. In theory, that Miami game was very winnable and they took care of business against Montreal, but that's mostly because Montreal is just not very good. So I think that Charlotte is one of those teams like they are in second place in the supporter shield right now because they are 5-0-0 at home with a goal differential of +11. I think those numbers are going to start evening out a little bit, but the best thing you can do is just beat the teams in front of you. And they have won 3 straight games in a row since they refused to respect Colorado's altitude. So you do have to hand it to them.
I
Anything
mean,
else?
it's a league. It's a league where you have to stack wins, right? And if you go into, I don't know, June with 15 games under your belt, and you have now got another 12 points out of the month of May, you can stagger a little bit through June if you have to, and get 3 results and lose 2 of those games, and still be in a really, really, really good position in the East. So I'm not overly worried about them. Just keep on doing what you're doing.
Any other closing thoughts on Charlotte before we move on to the final team here? If not, we'll move on because one thing we did not get to talk about, I think Jeremy alluded to it, was Brian White coming out and saying, hey, I'm here. The New Jersey Mario Gomez scored 4, could have had 5, could have broke or tied Clint Mathis's record last week had he not given the penalty to Rios, who, missed it. But Vancouver, man, from last week, putting a 5-piece to this week, a 0-0 against, where is it? I missed it already.
St.
0-0
Louis.
against St. Louis. Yeah, see, I don't want to remember St. Louis. That's the thing.
Fair. I just hate that you made me do it.
Fellas, is Vancouver worth the hype? I'm going to say yes, and it's mostly because they're still without Ryan Gauld. Once he's back in, no Sam Adekugbe either, no Matthias Laborda, no Jaden Nelson. Doesn't matter. We're still going to win. We're still going to get good results. 0-0 is like not fancy, but you'll take points every time. And now, they're probably more prepared for a midweek match in CCC against Inter Miami. I am rooting super hard for Vancouver to beat Miami. I think that would be just heritage, really. That would be MLS heritage. Very happy for this Vancouver side. I think they're worth all the plaudits and everything, and they're genuinely just a very fun team. Just didn't have a fun game. I'll open it up to y'all just because I know I said I have me assigned to this one. There's only so much we can talk about the 0-0. So if you want to talk about the 5-1, you're more than welcome to. But final thoughts here on the league leaders, Vancouver Whitecaps. I'll open it up to y'all.
I just wanted to chime in real quick and say that during the 5-1 game, I got a text from my younger brother who is not. He's in college, does not watch much MLS outside of Sporting Kansas City, and all he said was Brian White, best USMNT striker.
Let's go.
We're making moves out here. We're making names for ourselves out here, ladies and gentlemen. If you're on the Brian White hive, who could finish while thinking of the Queen, remember that tweet?
Oh my God.
If you're not on that train, you should be, because he's hitting random college towns and he's hitting Columbia, Missouri, from Vancouver. So that's all I'll say is Brian White, best USMNT striker.
I'll take it, man. I love Brian White, and him dropping 4. It's like, did you guys see what they said about him? That he's like a $14 million striker, which is a little bit of a now overvaluation from the MLS 360 hosts. But fuck it, why not? Let's say he's worth $30 million. I think he's worth double that.
Yeah.
What say you guys?
Oh yeah,
Can
that's the
we
vibe.
Yeah.
can we
Why not?
inflate
No,
Brian White to the moon here?
I mean, I'm gonna talk about the mouth guard again, and I feel like the mouth guard adds like a certain level of aura to Brian White's game because you don't see strikers just walk around with mouth guards like smiling after they score with just a big old piece of plastic in their mouth. And I feel like it just fits the ethos of what Vancouver have done this year because they're going to outwork you, they're going to kill you in transition, and they're going to smile really stupidly while they do it. So I'm like, this is so hard for me to just like remember that there's a Vancouver Miami game and just like feel like I have to pay attention to it because I hope both teams lose more than anything. And at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, it would be like really fun for Vancouver to um beat Miami and have to hang that banner for saying we beat Miami in CONCACAF, but then they get killed by Cruz Azul or something like that in
No, don't.
the CONCACAF final.
Nah, Vancouver is gonna
Because that,
do it. Vancouver's gonna do it.
that I do you have any idea what position I would be in with the
I know.
only two
I know.
MLS teams to have won CONCACAF be Seattle and Vancouver? I would. That
Cinema.
is just
Cinema.
well, while we're still like trying to discover the fire of like competing in Open Cup too. So I'm
Allegory of the
Hey,
cave.
MLS is back. They will literally never sing that. Jeremy.
no, they
True.
literally won't, and everyone. But like that's I feel like just having a little bit of hype would go a long way. But that's the thing. Vancouver has the hype now. People are starting to like actually notice that yeah, they play a really fun brand of soccer. They're very entertaining to watch. And I want to talk a little bit about Manuel Sabi because he's fun. I feel like if like losing Jaden Nelson after the outburst they had against 10 men in week 1, asterisk, the I feel like it would be like a lot it would be really easy for like people to be like, "Oh my god, like how are they going to survive without Jaden Nelson?" when like Sabi I think holds on to that spot after Nelson comes back. I really think so. The question
Sabi's
is
awesome.
where is Gall? Gald obviously is going to fit back in onto that left wing, but like a front three of Gald, Sabi, and Brian White, like no, those aren't really like household names in the way that you'd think of it, but like, damn, that's dangerous. That's so dangerous.
Golden State Warriors.
Oh,
GSW.
the Gold Coast.
Gold Coast. Yes. We'll call it the Gold Coast. I mean, Vancouver is definitely like what's crazy is like where's Vanni Sartini, bro? Because he mostly had this group of guys. I know he didn't have Sabi, but I mean, if you look at that 11, the only guy that he didn't have was Sabi. White was on the team. Ahmed was on the team. Berhalter. I mean, Berhalter's probably the best beneficiary of this, bro. He is playing at a really high level. I'm a big fan of Berhalter. Both him and Greg, honestly. And maybe that's what Greg needs right now. He needs a son in that midfield for Chicago ahead of Gutierrez. Let's see that trade. No, but beyond that though, like that's my biggest question is, I mean, even the subs, Ngondo, Priso, Rios, like outside of Sabi, and then you also have Nelson who came, Sabi and Nelson. Those were the only two guys they picked up, and I'm gonna say it now, guys. I think Jesper Sorensen is looking to be the coach of the year here because how do you only bring in two guys and you just completely turn around the ethos of a team amidst a sale? Like the Whitecaps were for sale to start the offseason. That is, usually followed up by very poor results, very poor, turbulence in the club. And despite that, Vancouver's still winning. They deserve a lot better. one thing that pissed me off in that 5-1 win was just the lack of crowd, because it's like you have Brian White who's going crazy, and Vancouver could care less. But any final thoughts on Vancouver, guys, before we wrap up this pod?
If they want to sell the team and move, they should do what Nico Harrison did with Doncic and sell Brian White to Sporting Kansas City. That's what I think.
Another striker? Another striker?
It's the Patrick. It's like the another blank to another 20 million to Israel or whatever. It's like Patrick, another striker to Sporting KC. It's the Patrick basketball meme.
On that note,
Yeah. Also, one other thing from the Austin game: Vancouver plays "Free from Desire" after every goal.
Oh yes,
I'm sick of hearing it. I'm so fucking sick of hearing that song. I didn't like it to begin with.
Brian White, baby.
Yeah, I didn't like to begin with, and now I'm just like, oh my god, like because for some reason you can actually hear Vancouver's crowd noise, so you always hear that stupid song. It's like the same thing with Philadelphia with their like little dupe thing. I'm just like, can we stop? Can we just like
Never stop?
Like, good for crowd noise and everything, but it just like adds a layer of just like and just grunting and groaning whenever I have to hear like da, 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 da.
It's so good, though.
Jesus Christ.
It's one of the better ones, I think.
I think you just found our intro song.
On that note, Jeremy, where can they find you?
You can find me on the Elon app at Sports Guy Jeremy. You can find me on Blue Sky at jeremypeterman.bsky.social. You can read all the things I have to write about the Portland Timbers on cascadiafc.substack.com, which this year we hired a Whitecaps writer. I think it's his fault that Vancouver are this good. Or you can credit me for buoying Vancouver's hopes by finally hiring a Whitecaps writer after 3 years. Either way, yeah. There's a lot of good stuff on there, not just Timbers related. We got some guys who write about the Sounders sometimes, and people who cover the NWSL. So all your Pacific Northwest soccer needs, Cascadia FC.
Joss, where can they find you?
You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter, currently known as Twitter. I can still call it Twitter, at Josh Bathtub. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Off to See the Wizards. And you can also find me at Peter Vermes' funeral because Carrie Zavagnin-Ball is here, and I'm sure that's killing him inside.
I mean, it's gotta. I hope it's clawing at him, wherever he is. As long as he doesn't have his keys, we'll be fine. Daniel, where can they find you?
You can find me on X, the Everything app, at VoxPro MLS as Major League Shill. If you like rage bait tweets to try to get people to fight with you, you will love my account.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the better Twitter warriors than I am. I've tried to stick away from at Juanners715 on X, at Juanners715.bsky.social, but mostly I'm just trying to hype up Box State footy at this point. Got some big news around the corner. Hopefully can share a bit more later, but be sure to support us, guys, at Box State Footy everywhere. All the social medias, getting the Instagram back up and running, so you can find us on Instagram. Be sure to give us a like, a review, share this with your friends, and we will see ya when we see ya. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.